Hello, happy Friday. Welcome back on tour. It's the men's UCI World Tour kicking off for 2023, and we are at stage 3 of 5 road stages of the Santos Tour Down Under. My name's Jez Cox. I have Adam Blythe with me once again as we're bringing you what I had marked down in my road book as being the first decisive general classification stage of this race. I was wrong by the looks of things, because yesterday's stage turned out to be an absolute corker. Now, talking of corks and corkscrews, let's have a look at today's course, because it rides out into the Adelaide Hills, going east, due east of where we had the prologue, in actual fact, on Tuesday, and going out through Birdwood. A very early climb up to the King of the Mountains point at Ashton. We've already been through there. And then 2 sprint points in the middle before the back end of the course as we come back in the direction of Adelaide and the Central Business District itself. 2 first category climbs. The first of them is Checker Hill, and the second is the Corkscrew, where, of course, we saw the finale of the Women's Santos Tour Down Under played out earlier this week on Tuesday. It was a pretty decisive one in that occasion. Let's see how decisive it becomes today. This is the general classification after yesterday's late 5-man breakaway. Really shaped things. Rowan Dennis taking the stage win yesterday in Victor Harbor, and he took with him in that break Jay Vine. Magnus Sheffield wasn't there, but he's hung on to 3rd place in the general classification after a lot of work by Luke Plapp to bring that gap down between the group that eventually was won, the sprint by Caleb Ewan yesterday, and our 5-man breakaway. We'll come back to that point again in a moment as we're looking at pictures of the riders rolling out at about 11:30. Stuart O'Grady, our race director there, I think being presented with some flowers by the looks of it. He's waved the flag, and this was how things kicked off. We saw Fabio Fellini and Mikel Honoré starting to edge clear and building up a little bit of a gap. They went through the first mountains point at Ashton, first and second. Honoré over the top first, Fabio Fellini second. Luke Plapp picking up some more points in that competition, and then they've just gone through the sprint point in Lobathal outside the bakery there in front of a big crowd in the South Australian sunshine. And I'm pleased to say, weather-wise, the sunshine is back, and it's only going to get warmer between now and the final ascent of Mount Lofty, where this race is brought to its conclusion on Sunday. We had rain, of course, for the prologue. We've had a few slightly clouder days and a little bit cooler, which has been quite good for the racing. And the racing's been hot. Stage 2 in Tanunda was littered with crashes. A lot of nervous riders, a lot of nervous riding that we weren't necessarily expecting so early on in the season, down under. And it's removed 8 riders now from the race. There were 131 that started today. And yesterday's stage became, as I say, a really decisive one. We're just looking back again to that sprint in Lobathal outside the bakery. Fellini and Honoré sharing these intermediate points between themselves, because Honoré taking maximum points at the second category. Sorry, I should say, let me think. 4th category. 2nd category, Ashton. And then this was the sprint behind in Lobathal. And that was an interesting one, because Caden Groves, it's the first we've seen him for a day or so. I haven't really seen the enormous calves of Caden Groves sprinting, but he took the 1 bonus second. Don't forget, at each of those sprint points there is 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds available. The next classified point on our course is Williamstown, which is right up at the north of the circuit we're doing. It's another relatively short stage, 116.8, so let's call it 117 kilometres today. And both of the 2 hilliest stages, and this is one of them, are the 2 shortest stages in this race. And that's something I like. That gives me a chance to bring Adam in, because he's not only ridden this race on 3 occasions, but he has ridden the Corkscrew, which these riders are building towards. Adam, is it something we need to be... is it something the riders will be worried about? How tough is that climb?
Oh, it's tough. It's a hard one. It's steep. It's the last sort of 500-600 metres, it flattens up. Well, not flattens off, but it gets a little bit easier. But the main thing about the Corkscrew is the run into it. You've got a super fast downhill into it, which is very sketchy indeed. You can touch on sort of 100k an hour into the bottom of it, so positioning is key for a lot of these riders, the teams especially, getting first into it, because you turn onto the road which the climb is on and it drags up a little bit, but it's a tightest corner that goes onto a narrow road, so positioning going into the Corkscrew is everything. If you can get in there in the front and you don't have to move up at the bottom of the climb before it actually starts, you can save quite a bit of energy by doing so. So although the effort on the corkscrew is going to be big, the effort that you have to make before, if you've got a good team around you and they can position you well, you will save quite a lot of energy. And then as soon as we get on the corkscrew at the top of it, they turn a tight right, and then you've got one of the most fun roads down to the finish that you could ever imagine. I'm not too sure if it'll be fun and you're trying to catch someone in the front, but when I did it, I was sort of in that gruppetto at the back, and we were able, it's one of those descents where you can freewheel down without really touching the brakes at times, and it's just a fun one. And then the final finish straight today, if there is a little group, is an interesting one because it's a downhill sprint, which is super fast.
All to look forward to. The corkscrew itself tops out with 5.8k to go. Now, I should point out, if you didn't watch the Women's Santos Tour Down Under earlier this week, the men are actually doing a slightly shorter descent as well. So the run off the bottom of it was actually 2k less than the women did. Not really giving away any spoilers here, but it was a sort of decisive moment in the women's race, and particularly between the two riders who went clear on the corkscrew. I should point out, by the way, if you don't know the climb and you haven't looked it up on maps, technically the road is called Corkscrew Road. If you're wondering about the shape of it, it's effectively four main switchbacks, but they're not actually in the shape of a corkscrew, because of course if they were, and the classic example of a real corkscrew climb would be Puy de Dôme, of course, which features in this year's Tour de France. Of course, if it's a real corkscrew, it means you finish at the top. It's a summit finish. There's no way down other than to come back down the same way, as we will see in this year's Tour de France, where it takes in the epic Puy de Dôme in the Massif Central, of course. This is a classic switchback climb we've got today, and I'm talking about it actually not having ridden up it, and Adam has, so we'll come back to it in the run-up to it and see how much he remembers of both the run-in, which he's already explained to me is quite testy and technical, that run-in, and then the descent off the back of it. So we will home in on that as we start to head southward. At the moment, we're still going northward up to Williamstown and that second sprint point of the day, which will come with 64k to go. So this gives us a nice little moment as we watch the gap of our two breakaway riders, neither of whom are a threat in the general classification. We watch that gap settle at around about 2 minutes. We'll wait to see that confirmed again on the screen in just a moment. It gives us a chance to look back to yesterday, because yesterday's stage was a very good one for the 5 riders who snuck clear, and then a very bad one for the riders who were going into the stage on first and second in the general classification. I am, of course, talking about Alberto Bettiol, our prologue winner, and Michael Matthews. And they both had different problems. Their problems happened at around about the same place as we went into the sting in the tail, I think, as Adam mentioned, Nettle Hill, our final classified climb yesterday. Nettle Hill became really pivotal in a way that I hadn't expected it to in the general classification, because not only did it see both of them lose around about 2 minutes, and we'll come back to why in a minute, it also saw a very select leading group of 5 detach themselves, and of course Rowan Dennis was in there because he went on to win. It was Rowan Dennis, Jay Vine, Mauro Schmidt, Simon Yates and Jai Hindley. Those 5 went clear. In the end, it had been closed down, the chasing group behind, to 11 seconds that Caleb Ewan had. But crucially, our 2 previous first and second place riders, Bettiol and Matthews, weren't in that group. And they now sit, having been first and second, they now sit Bettiol 57th on general classification, 2 minutes and 5 down, and Michael Matthews 58, 2 minutes and 9 down. I suspect it's no surprise as to see one of Bettiol's teammates, Mikel Honoré, newly joined, of course, from what was the Quick-Step Alpha Vinyl team last year, up the road, because it kind of frees up the boys in pink to get involved with things again, not worry about protecting the jersey that, by all accounts, according to Bettiol, was not intended for him to win in the first place anyway. Maybe it would have been Honoré they were thinking of, but that's the way things have worked out. So, Adam, there's quite a lot coming out overnight about what might have happened to those 2. I believe on social media the clip of Bettiol throwing his bottle and banging his quads has been going around the place, and people suggesting what might have happened and what was going on, all sorts of theories, as you often get on social media. But let's just put it like this: Nettle Hill was not a nice one for Bettiol or Matthews yesterday, was it?
No, not at all. I mean, Bettiol wasn't in too bad a position, really. He was in that group, but he was after Nettle Hill where he got the cramp, sadly for him. So, yeah, it was an odd one. really. It's been a while since I've seen someone get cramp that bad
Yeah.
in a bike race before. You do have to, I'm laughing, but it's not nice at all, and especially when you're in the leader's jersey and you have to stop and sort of punch your legs and then someone's taking pictures of you. But yeah, I have everything. I think Michael Matthews, the disappointment that we could see yesterday, we could hear yesterday in his voice with the interview, you do have to feel for him, don't you? Because it's not nice to... I think for Bettiol, it's sort of that, OK, I've been beaten fair and square, they've put time into me, I've got cramp, I can't do anything about it. Whereas Matthews, it sounds like something could have been done about it. It sounds like riders banging into each other, and maybe someone hit his rear derailleur and that slipped the chain and then the chain came off. So I think for him it was a little bit of a gutter, and it would have been great to have him in there still, even if he was finished in that group there or thereabouts, those bonus seconds still to play for in this race would have made it a little bit more interesting. But we've still got a fantastic race in our hands. We've still got 5 riders up there still on within 15 seconds of each other. Mauro Schmidt 4th, Corbin Strong 14th. We might see him slip down a little bit today. Magnus Sheffield still up there on 12 seconds, even though we missed that group yesterday. And then Jay Vine, he's the interesting one for me today. What can he do? Because he was the original attacker yesterday. He put the time into them. Simon Yates jumped across with Rowan Dennis a little bit later on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to today. It's going to be a good one, especially with that descent down to the finish, because it is fast, it is technical, and if you know the road, I think you can take quite a little bit of time back. And speaking to a teammate of one of the riders in the front, Fabio Fognini, Mark Cavendish last year in the Giro d'Italia, there's one man, Mauro Schmidt, who can descend like a stone. He's very fast indeed, so if he's at the front, no doubt he'll be wanting to push on.
Yes, he was the interesting one in the mix yesterday. I guess certainly if you ask me who might be the lead 5 at the end of a tough climb at this stage of the race, I probably would have included Hindley, Vine, Yates and Dennis in there as well. But Schmidt looked good, although he kind of got worked over a little bit in that finale, didn't he, Adam? Because it was a very strange one. They got to the point fairly late on where Simon Yates had either decided or been freed up to be able to contribute, but it was very late. And then both of the final attacks, apart from, I mean, Rowan Dennis's one was a little bit more obvious, but even Jai Hindley sneaking away, it was kind of a pressing on the pedals, a little bit of an easing off in the group around them, and I don't know how certain they'd have been about where the chase was coming from behind, but it was an interesting finale, and Mauro Schmidt was kind of stuck there, wasn't he, on the front, and ended up in the end coming 3rd. Jay Vine had a good final sprint, but it was a strange finale, wasn't it? I'm not sure whether they expected to hang on or not.
Yeah, I definitely think they expected to hang on 100%, but I think with Schmidt there, they knew he had a fast finish, and I think for the likes of Rowan, probably he was just thinking, take an opportunity, say with Jai Hindley there as well, the original one that started the move off. I think for Rowan it would be a case of, right, make sure you don't lose time. Finish with these guys, but just make sure you don't lose time. It's an opportunity, take it. But I think for the rest of the guys, it was like, watch out for Schmidt, watch out for Schmidt. He's super quick, he's fast. And I think that the other riders watching him, not knowing how he felt, and I just don't think he, that big effort that he had to put in obviously took its toll on him, because he just didn't quite have the legs to respond to what he needed to, and he was almost marked out of it by a couple of the riders. And yeah, Rowan Dennis was able to take advantage of that. So was Jay Vine as well, with a little late sprint, an early sprint, but a very late attack, let's say, coming into the final.
He surprised me a bit there, Jay Vine. In fact, he keeps surprising me because he seems to be able to do everything. He had a good sprint. He's got a nice snappy turn of speed when he chooses to use it too. We know how well he climbs. We now know also how well he time trials. He continues to flesh out his abilities and show us just how good he is. Very impressive yesterday. And I think it would be... Is it safe to say, Adam, although we always stand ready to be surprised by any one of these 131 riders, but is it safe to say the winner on Sunday on Mount Lofty overall is going to come from those leading 5?
Well, I think it's safe to say that, but we don't know what might happen. I mean, yesterday we knew that climb would have had an impact, but not the impact it had on the race as it is now, because it was only 2k yesterday, I think it was, so it wasn't a long climb at all. And I think for the riders that were going into yesterday's stage, it would have been pay attention on the climb, don't let any of the favourites go, but be ready to be caught, because it's a headwind down to the finish. There's about 15k of it. It is slightly downhill, so pay attention, don't miss the moves that you need to, but expect to be caught. And it almost did happen, but it was great to see that the riders that did go on the attack didn't get caught, and it completely turned the race upside down.
There's a lot of Caleb Ewan fans out there. I'm aware of that from comments we've seen on our clips and videos on the GCN app and across social media the last few days. So worth pointing out that we can see what great form Caleb Ewan is in. He displayed it in the Criterium in Adelaide at the weekend, of course. Showed it again yesterday in that final sprint, hanging on well over Nethel Hill, and then winning that bunch sprint yesterday to take 6th place. He will get another shot at a fairly likely sprint finish tomorrow. It's slightly uphill into Willunga Township. It's not the Willunga Hill that we've come to know the last few editions of the Santos Tour Down Under. It's very close to it, but it's the lower Willunga Hill, and the run up into the township is set up to be potentially a really nice sprint tomorrow. So an opportunity for Caleb Ewan to go for that and prove himself as being the fastest pair of heels in this race. He does have a much depleted team now, though, because they've lost 3 of their 7 riders. James Moriarty, Conor Leahy and Graham Frisley are all out. So he might be having to freestyle it a little bit, as he is quite used to doing at times. So that shouldn't be an issue. It certainly wasn't an issue yesterday in the closing stages. Let me update people, therefore, on the Jersey classifications and the general classification. So after yesterday's breakaway of 5, it left Rowan Dennis in the lead. Adam had quickly worked it out because he's my self-appointed mathematician assistant. Ooh, what are we looking at there? Hang on. Oh, I've got to pick out my birds.
Bird.
I know it's a bird. That's not one of those. It's not one of those Australian magpies, is it? I think it might be. You know.
I don't know.
I'm going to get.
I have to say, birds are not my speciality, Jez. If anyone out there on Twitter is a bird specialist, please let us know what that black and white bird was, and if the technical name is the Australian magpie,
I think
do
it
let us know.
I think it's the one. It actually looked. I think it was looking for Bauke Mollema. Because if you remember, at the run-up to the Worlds last year, he was the one who was being dive-bombed by magpies on his TT bike. So maybe it was floating over looking for Bauke, and he's not here. Anyway, maybe you don't realise this, Adam. I am the self-appointed head of birds and wildlife here at the Home of Cycling. I'm supposed to know these things. I think it might be an Aussie magpie. I know already. I have some correspondents who will already be telling me what it is, so thank you for that, you lot at home. We had roos yesterday. We had kangaroos, didn't we? They made it into our little highlights clip afterwards as well, but we had a field of kangaroos and joeys all bounding alongside the riders, which is kind of like the money shot for the Santos Tour Down Under. We've had that. What we could do with now is a couple of koalas just dangling from a tree over the corkscrew climb. That would make the perfect shot. We'll look for it, and if we don't see it, we'll just pretend we did, which is not the first time it's happened this week. I think with some of the riders as well. Anyway, so the general classification, Adam worked it out correctly. Rowan Dennis with that 10-second bonus that he took on the finish line in Victor Harbour alongside the C there yesterday, left him with a 3-second lead over Jay Vine. We quickly pointed out, didn't we, once that group had gone away yesterday, Adam, that there were no Ineos Grenadiers riders in there. And yet, Magnus Sheffield, after his really good prologue ride, a very consistent ride so far, despite crashing, still sits in 3rd place on the general classification. He's actually ahead of Schmidt, who was in that breakaway yesterday. Corbin Strong has been picking up bonus seconds at all the opportunities he's had. He's still sitting in 5th place. Hugo Page, also another fast finisher, in 6th. Caden Groves, we've already seen pick up a second today, so he came into today's stage in 7th, but still in the hunt by the looks of it, because he's giving it a go in both the points classification and the general at the moment. Marius Meyerhofer, the German rider for DSM, is still inside that top 10 in 8th, as is another German who's been quietly moving his way up, actually moved up 3 places yesterday, Nikias Arndt of Bahrain Victorious. The final rider to flesh out our top 10 is Mars Scottson. He also moved up yesterday. The big mover yesterday, there was Mauro Schmid, who moved up 22 places to be 4th in the general classification. Let's just pick out the jerseys as well. The blue Zip Track Sprints jersey for the intermediate sprint points and the finishing points at the finish as well is worn today by Caleb Ewan. There was a lovely shot of him with his son and daughter on the podium yesterday. One of them, I think it was his son, was already wearing one of the blue jerseys as well. So that was turned around quickly by the podium team. That was a nice shot. He is 10 points ahead of Rowan Dennis, of course. In fact, all of those top 3 places in the points classification are held by riders who've won stages. No surprise there. That will continue to settle over the next 2 days. Jay Vine is in the King of the Mountains jersey, which kind of makes sense because he was proving himself yesterday as the best climber in the race, although Alessandro Covi might have something to say about that because he's only 2 points behind, is the Italian. And then just to complete the jersey classifications, Magnus Sheffield sitting in 3rd on GC means that as the best under-23 rider, he is wearing the Zwift under-23 white jersey. Wrap up complete, Adam.
That's good, because I have some news as well.
Give it to us.
Lime Pickle on Twitter thought it was a kookaburra. Don't know what that one is, but we have Mark, which Mark on Twitter, you have about 6,000 numbers after your name, so I'm not going to read them out. Yes, it's a magpie. Breeding season is over, so the peloton are safe.
Get in there. I'm happy with that. That is great. Thank you for that, Mark. Well, I'm pleased with it. No, kookaburra is a sort of stouter bird. I've actually seen kookaburra in South Australia, and they're like a kind of mottled, almost like an owl-like bird, but with the beak of a quite chunky beak. Fascinating bird, kookaburra. And that is the noise they make as well. They do make a kookaburra sound. I'm not going to do an impression of it, but yeah, cracking bird. Oh, I'm pleased with that. I got my magpie, of course, completely different to the British magpies that we get over here, but black and white as well, but a lot more white and a slightly bigger bird too.
Good morning to everyone that's joined us here live on GCN Birdwatch.
I told you. I have to. I've got an extraordinarily small and modest but well-informed following on Twitter now. I've told you, Adam, I'm the self-appointed head of wildlife at the Home of Cycling.
I'm supposed to get paid extra for this?
No, I wish I did. But fish, birds, and anything above ground, I'm all right with it. I'm okay with it.
I can maybe see why you won't get paid for it. I'm not gonna lie.
There we go. A magpie. We'll go with that. We'll look out for kookaburras though, because I tell you, they are an incredible creature. I don't know if you get them anywhere else around the world, but they're a particular. There's a lot of them in South Australia. I've spent time near Wollongong when I was the same year that I was in Adelaide actually, and had a kookaburra literally land about a metre away from me, and I fed it popcorn by hand.
You really do like birds, don't you?
I do like my birds. Yeah, no, a thing or two about birds. I'm not happy to. I'm not happy. I'm happy to admit it. Anyway, right. Let's focus on the race because the gap has gone out even more, despite the fact that now Alpecin de Koning. I nearly said the F word there, and just to be clear, that's Phoenix. Alpecin de Koning getting involved in the chase. Now, is this because they fancy setting something up for Caden Groves? What's this all about, Adam? Because they've got that second sprint point to come.
Yeah, it possibly might be for Caden Groves there. It's a hard one to say. I mean, it's interesting why they are riding. I mean, this is playing into Jumbo-Visma's hands. They've obviously lost a rider with Robert Hessink coming out with a broken pelvis. We wish him all the best. But this is great for them. It's a little bit of help at the front. But if it is for Caden Groves, I'd be quite surprised because he's not known for his amazing climbing. He can climb okay, quite well, but I think this climb today might be a little bit too much. But with a sprint point coming up, we might get a few seconds maybe, but at the same time, is it worth sticking your team on the front foot? I'm not too sure. Maybe Samuel Gaze. I'm just trying to find out where Samuel Gaze is now on the overall after yesterday's stage. I don't know if he dropped back or not yesterday, but yeah, interesting one, and it's great for us because we're going to get a little bit of a fresher Jumbo-Visma, which is going to help Rowan Dennis into the bottom of the corkscrew before he does his thing up there. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but they're not hanging about either, putting the pressure on. The rider on the front is Senna Lazen, tall rangy rider.
Yeah, it's worth remembering, even though we're starting to talk more about the climby end of things, and that group of 5 who went clear yesterday, Caden Groves is still only 15 seconds off the race lead. So picking up a second earlier today, that makes him 14 seconds off the race lead. And so they'll be fancying the opportunity to get bonus seconds potentially for Caden Groves. I'm just looking to see. Groves is, in fact, they've got a number of quite stocky, powerfully built riders there when you include Jensen Plowright and Rob Stannard in there. So we'll look to try and pick out where Groves is. But being 15 seconds off the lead means if he can have a good day today and maybe stay in contact with the big group on the Corkscrew, then there's an opportunity to pick up more bonus seconds again tomorrow. 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds available at each of the intermediate points, and then of course 10, 6 and 4 at the finishes as well. So despite the fact that we're starting to get into the climby end of things, the likes of a fast finishing Caden Groves, who we can see is in good form, still stand an opportunity. We're seeing little micro echelon forming here, aren't we, at the front end? So there is a bit of wind around, Adam. It's less than yesterday though.
Yeah, I don't think the wind's going to really come into play too much today. It's only around 10k an hour, so I think that what we can see is it's just a slight crosswind, cross head, cross tail. I'm just trying to work out where they are on the map now. 67 k's to go. Yeah, it's not too bad. They're going to have a little bit of wind throughout the day, but this is just riders not wanting to push into the wind too much. If it was that bad, we'd have a lot of the riders wanting to move up. We'd have them fighting for position. You'd see the teams coming up and they're not really doing so. So I think it's just a case of the pressure's on a little bit. Let's try and stay out the wind, and it is coming from the right to the right-hand side of the road to the left-hand side of the road, so let's just shelter as much as we can. But yeah, nothing to worry about today. It's only 10k an hour, so they'll be fine.
Well, the riders continue to head northward, long climb northward, all the way up in the direction of the Mount Crawford Forest and the Hale Conservation Park, which they go through before that sprint point in Williamstown, which comes, as I say, with 53 kilometres to go. They're going up past Birdwood right now and the National Motor Museum. I'm doing my best to try and pick out some of these things from our guidebook. I'm hoping at some point it's actually off to the riders' left right now. When we go through Gumaracha after the Williamstown sprint point, they go past the world record holding giant rocking horse, which is at a kind of a play centre there as well.
It's big.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's big. Yeah, it's a big rocking
horse.
It's massive.
I'm presuming by the looks of it, it appears to have some kind of almost like a platform on top of it. So I'm guessing you can actually get on it and balance around on it. And I take it you guys didn't all jump off and have a go.
No, we were serious bike riders, Jez. It's not holiday camp.
Now,
we had to get on with the training. We did stop for koalas, though.
Now, hold it a minute, hold it. Serious bike riders, serious training, off air. This gives me an ideal opportunity to bring this in. We do have a little bit of a chinwag about some of the things you got up to in this race, Adam Blythe. Do you want to tell us a little bit about them? Because it sounded like there's a fair bit of fun going on in that peloton that we maybe don't get to see on TV. So how are you guys entertaining yourselves on some of the, should we say, quieter moments?
Yes, I shall give you a bit of context first. So a lot of the riders, a lot of the teams arrive probably minimum 10 days before. A couple of teams, riders arrive a little bit earlier, and all the teams are in the same hotel for pretty much minimum 2 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks. So there is a buffet there, but it's the same buffet that you eat in every night. And yeah, there's not much difference in food. It's not bad food, it's fine. But a lot of the riders that, they went out, so it wasn't your team that you'd go out with, but, you'd chat in the peloton and say, after today's stage, do you fancy going out for a bit of dinner instead of having the buffet time? Like, yeah, sure. So there's a couple of us that went out. It was me, Luke Rowe, Michael Valger and Caleb Ewan. I forgot who else was there, but we were laughing the start of today's stage. I think it was that stage that we started on the day before, and we were taking bets to see who would have to have a lot of hot sauce on their food for the final night when we agreed to go out again after the race for dinner. And my bet was that I wouldn't be in the peloton at the top of the first climb, which was straight out the neutral, 11k up this motorway, and if there was attacks, it's a hard start, very hard start. So that was my bet. Luke Rowe's bet was the day after we had dinner. It was quite a hard sort of middle point, the last sort of 50k, and he had to bring 7 riders in the team, and he had to bring double the amount of bottles up for his team, so 2 bottles each for everyone, but he had to do so in the last 50k. And sure enough, 49.9 k's to go, Luke Rowe came past. Michael Valgren's, I've forgotten his bet, but basically Michael Valgren lost, and he didn't do the hot sauce, but he did buy everyone dinner. So yeah, we had a little bit of fun, let's say.
Fantastic. There you go. A little bit of insight for you folks at home from the former British champion Adam Blythe about his experience in this race. Of course, Adam's experience in this race isn't that long ago in terms of editions, because don't forget this race didn't happen in 2022 or 2021. Last time it happened was 2020, and actually the last time Adam rode it was 2019, Adam, I think.
It was, yeah.
Yes, if I remember correctly, the same year that I interviewed you on a podium in London at the Tour of Britain, asking you about whether you were thinking of retiring, and you denied it to me, barefaced denied it to me. You knew.
I did know for quite a long time, but yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Look at these lovely shots of the Adelaide Hills. Now that looks like an ideal location to chill out and enjoy the water. There's a lot of water up here as well, because actually what we're going to be going past is a whole sort of linked series of reservoirs. Quite a few of them are dammed, and they're actually dammed parts of the Torrens River, which is the same river that, of course, we were alongside. Some of the riders nearly rode into for the prologue in Adelaide itself. It widens out a lot more, but up here, up on higher ground, it's dammed in 2 or 3 places. The biggest of those are the South Para Reservoir, which we go past after Williamstown. So we're going to be seeing a lot more water, but fresh water, inland water, as opposed to the beaches, where we return to tomorrow, because we go past, we start in Wollonga tomorrow, we go past Snapper Point and Aldinga Beach. Somehow, Adam, I'm managing to say that without doing my bad Australian accent.
I was going to say, I think we have to do the Australian accent for these, because it just sounds odd without doing the accent.
Yeah, but then I have to add a mate afterwards as well, Snapper Point, mate. And
I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
Your accent is much better than mine, so I think we'll appoint you as our semi-native Australian speaker.
Down a Snapper Point there, guys.
Yeah, we're going to be back at the beach tomorrow, working our way inland, and then multiple laps tomorrow, some tight corners as well. Should be a quick one. Longer stage, though, of course, as I say. I quite like that, Adam, that these sort of more pivotal stages that Stuart O'Grady's put together for this race are shorter too. I'm always a big fan of short stages anywhere. I mean, it's not crazy short, but today is 117 kilometres, and it's a nice distance to get their teeth into when they've got that harder end to it.
It is, yeah, and it gives the riders a good chance to really get stuck into it, as you've just said as well. And I think for a lot of them, it's sort of in the direction meeting for guys. It's a relatively short day. It's 118 kilometres today. A little bit of neutral beforehand, but yeah, they're going to be 3 hours just over probably in today's race, 3 hours 10 maybe. So it's a relatively short day for these guys, but that means that riders can get stuck into it more, get the teeth out a little bit more, and there's less of what we're seeing now is basically the break going away and a lot of riding in between. I know in other races, Grand Tours, etc., that does add up. There is that case of fatigue in there as well, but for this it's just, we want pure entertainment. We want it to be racing from start to finish. We're going to put sprint points in there that are going to throw a spanner in the works as well, and they've done just that, and I think it's brilliant.
I was waffling over the top of it. Those of you who are watching the pictures really carefully will have spotted our 2 unlucky riders from yesterday, or unfortunate riders from yesterday, having a chat somewhere near the back of that main peloton, talking together. Alberto Bettiol and Michael Matthews chewing the fat after yesterday's tumble down the general classification. Penny for their thoughts. It would have been nice to get our camera motorbike right underneath them, but they were having a good old natter, maybe picking over where things went wrong yesterday. As I say, there was quite a bit of afters on reports and things yesterday about Matthews, and I mean, to a certain extent, Adam, I guess his comments mirrored a little bit what Peter Sagan said on a couple of occasions over the last year about the last couple of years about the younger generation coming through. I'm not quoting directly here, by the way, but just the inference of the younger generation coming through, not necessarily respecting those above them who've already achieved great things in our sport. And whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's there was a fair bit of bulking going on yesterday. In a way, it was probably slightly difficult to know exactly who was talking about. And yeah. The old chain.
It is what it is.
It
is what it is. It's the same for everyone. I think that's what we can agree to say. Even though there might be that lack of respect in the peloton anymore, which if you speak to guys, if you speak to Fabian Cancellara when he was still racing, he'd say the same thing. And you speak to guys now that are still in the peloton that have been for a long time, they will also say the same thing. But if you speak to the younger guys, they won't have a clue what you mean. They're like, well, this seems great, everyone's really nice to each other, they don't push each other around, but then doing so when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, they are pushing around. You'll be like, this is a bit weird that no one else is doing this, but this is what I know, this is what I'm going to do. And there's a lot of pressure on them as well for the young guys, first World Tour race. It's not even the young guys, it's the older guys that it might be contract year that they've been really training for this race, get the start to the season off with a bang and get a couple of good results. So the pressure at this time of year, even though they're just settling in, first race, is still right up there. They want to make a good impression early on. So it's the same for everyone. It's not necessarily going to change for a long time. It's probably only going to get worse, really, especially with a lot more young guys in the sport to what it was 5-6 years ago. You've got 20, 21-year-olds winning Grand Tours now. So that's just how it is these days. And yeah, people will always complain about it, but ultimately I don't think that will ever change either.
No, you can see an indication of the slightly hillier terrain we're now riding into. I shouldn't ignore the two riders we have in the breakaway because they still have 3 minutes of gap. Of course, there's some real quality in between those two as well. Fabio Fellini of the Astana Kazakhstan team, let's not forget, has won the points classification in the Vuelta. I forgot that, Adam. And
he has.
He's had a fair few decent wins too.
Classy rider. He had a couple of years where he was absolutely flying, and we saw the best of Fabio Fellini. We've not seen the best of him for a couple of years, but yeah, great bloke and great hair. Something that our colleague Matt Stevens would be proud of.
Yes, absolutely. He's got a decent bushy barnet on him, hasn't he? Something of the Daniel Frieber about him, dare I say, as well. And cycling fans will know who. Something of that quite
risky
big hair.
Business. Risky business, bringing Freeboss into it with hair.
I'll park that. But have a look at check out his picture if you don't know him without a helmet on. Fabio Fellini. He's got a decent sized barnet on him. Anyway, lots of talk about Astana the last few days. Lots of talk about whose place has been may or may not have been taken by Mark Cavendish and Cees Bol coming in there and completing what's got to be the last few places. If not, Adam, I think the last places available in the World Tour in terms of team complement. There's an awful lot of riders this year shuffling around and moving down through the different tiers as well for various different reasons. But it is such a competitive time to become, to be, and then stay being a pro bike rider right now, isn't it? It's always hard, obviously, Adam, as you'll know only too well, but at the moment it seems like maybe we're in the grip of a kind of a bit of a European financial downturn anyway, but it's been a tough winter for a lot of riders, hasn't it?
It has done, yeah. I think it's always going to be tough if you're a pro bike rider, especially if you're not getting the results and you're a little bit older. You've been a pro for quite a while, and you've not got results, and you might be asking for a certain amount of money in your salary, what you think is fair, and if you have a family. But for the young guys who don't really have any life commitments, let's say they don't have kids, they don't have a family to support, they've just got their rent to pay on their apartment, and that's pretty much it. That the younger guys coming in that with a lot more years ahead of them, let's say, and a little bit more of maybe a future within the sport, that the teams will look at them, maybe pay them half of what an elder rider is looking for. So it's just business at the end of the day. Cycling has always been a business. So for a lot of them, like any other business if you can get something cheaper that's going to last you longer maybe, and maybe a better option, they will probably go for that. So yeah, it's not easy at all to hold a contract for a lot of these young riders unless you're doing something special for your team.
Do you know what? I think Bettiol and Matthews here are now marking each other out for that 57th and 58th place on general classification. They're locked together.
Yeah. They're definitely not talking about birds.
No, well, they might be. They might be. Don't rule it out. Don't. There'll be. I bet you there'll be some ornithologists in that peloton. You'd be surprised. Anyway, we're up against the reservoir now. Sorry, which means that we are crossing effectively the Torrens River and making our way from the Adelaide Hills district, actually just over back into the Barossa, which is where we were for stage 1, of course, in Tanunda, where Phil Bauhaus was the sprint winner. Seems like an age ago now, doesn't it? But that's where it was. And we're looking back now, Adam, at that moment yesterday at the base of Nettle Hill.
Yeah, the base of Nettle Hill yesterday. Michael Matthews here trying his best to get his chain on his spare bikes arrived, but being a bloke, he's committed to the DIY and he wants to see it through. But the spare bike comes along, take a few seconds to get it, and you could just see already the riders that have done a job out the back. But he gets going again, but it was on the lower slopes of it before the hard part really started, and he was already by that point a minute down on the front rides. And I think at that point, by the time we got the camera shots, we had Jay Vine off the front already. We didn't actually see his attack from the peloton, so it was always going to be difficult for Michael Matthews from that point onwards. And he did go past a lot of riders. He did make his way back up, but sadly for him, I think the closest he got was probably about a minute and a half back. And for Michael Matthews on his own to match the speed that the guys were going in the front would have been very difficult in its own right, and then to go faster and bring time back would have been even harder. So yeah, you got to feel for him, because it was, wasn't his fault. It was just bike riding that's part of it, sadly.
Well, I'm guessing it might simplify things a little bit for that team now as well. In fact, it does simplify for things, doesn't it? Simon Yates is now their general classification rider at the moment anyway. And Michael Matthews is freed up to try and take the win in Wollonga Township tomorrow. And that's a distinct possibility, the way that he's riding and sprinting and how strong his team are. Could be a big comeback tomorrow, Adam, couldn't it? Might simplify things.
Yeah, I think for a stage win for Michael Matthews, it'd be absolutely brilliant. And, today's probably a day where it definitely will be a day where he supports Simon Yates on the lower slopes, hold on for as long as he can to Simon's wheel to support him. And then look to get a stage win if he can, which for him is the ultimate, really. Disappointment after yesterday's stage, so the best way to come back from that is fighting for a stage win, which I do hope we're going to see. But it all depends on today as well, what it comes down to in terms of where Simon might be. Will he be able to go on the attack? Will he be able to, distance himself and get that little bit of time back that he needs? And if he can't, we all know this race is down to bonus seconds, and then what can Michael Matthews do to help Simon Yates get some bonus seconds?
Ineos Grenadiers see themselves as the big boys at the top of the sport, and they know that Jumbo-Visma have been on this journey the last 5 or 6 years to catch up with them, and then some would say in certain quarters start to surpass them in certain areas. They will have looked, Adam, surely at the result from I'd say looked at it, it's plainly obvious. They did everything they could in the end to try and protect and keep Magnus Sheffield in a shout, and he's still in exactly the same place in third place. But crucially, they didn't have him or Luke Platt or anyone in that move. So this could be a bounce back day today for Ineos Grenadiers, where they look to stamp their authority a bit. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think today for them will be a difficult day to bring time back with the course today, mainly just because it's with that corkscrew climb with a pretty much straight drop down to the finish. You can't really gain a lot of time back. You can, if you're within 20 seconds, maybe get back on some if you take a few risks down the descent. Sheffield is not a bad descender, so he might be able to get some time back if he is within touching distance. But they brought a team here which is the likes of Ethan Hayter, Sheffield, Luke Platt, which is, Wollonga Hill's not in here anymore. Corkscrew is, Mount Lofty is in there, but it's not one of those sort of routes, the whole route, where you're going to lose a lot of time. So the bonus seconds, as we know, as we always mention, is a massive part of this race, and they've got a team here which can chip away at those bonus seconds. So it all depends today, if they lose time, Ineos Grenadiers, and who with, what their plan will be.
Any second now we should be going past into Williamstown for the sprint points, the second and final one of the day. 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds on the general classification, and 3, 2 and 1 points in the blue jersey competition. Our breakaway of Fabio Fellini and Mikel Honoré is not going to be caught. And we're going to see one rider from this chasing pack take it. By the looks of it, and by the looks of the very hard work being done by Alpecin Deceuninck, they are set on it being Caden Groves.
Yeah, you've got Caleb Ewan there moving up on the left-hand side in that sprint jersey. You can just see him getting onto the back. He's going to have to make an effort, though, to get onto the back of Groves here. Yeah, 3 riders gone clear. I don't think Caleb's going to be getting too near these guys.
Do you know, I must have looked away as our leading 2 went through the sprint point, so we'll confirm that for you in a minute. But we may not have even seen it because this is, in a way, the crucial bit. Groves going through, slightly downhill through that sprint as well, so taking just 1 point and 1 bonus second. That means he should move ahead of Hugo Page. Yes, he will. So he'll be up into... he'll be level with Corbin Strong in 5th place on general classification after doing that. So a lot of effort that actually will be, on paper at the moment anyway, quite useful. There is Caden Groves in the middle.
It'd be interesting to see if Alpecin keep riding now on the front of the peloton or not. I can't imagine they've just got on the front for 1 point. If they have, seems like a lot of effort. No, they are keeping going, which is great to see. That's good news.
Is that because they're genuinely now focused on the end, or is that a sort of good sportsmanship thing that they then keep it going afterwards a little bit? What's going on there?
Nah, not really. I think those days are gone. The good sportsmanship of, OK, we're just going to help you now because we've been riding on the front for a little bit. They've ultimately helped Jumbo-Visma anyway for the past 20, 30 kilometres by riding. But, yeah, I think with their rider Caden Groves, that he'll... they want to keep him in the best position possible on that general classification.
Right, well, I'll confirm for you that sprint point as soon as we see it confirmed. We're now at the most northerly part of the course. We've gone through, or just heading out now, of Williamstown. And heading now southward, due southward. We're going to turn left out of Williamstown and head down in the direction of Kersbrook. And the next of our King of the Mountains points, which comes in around about just over 20k. And that is Chequer Hill. It's a first cat, Chequer Hill. We haven't talked about it much so far, but it's about 1 kilometre in length and a max gradient of 18.9%. So potentially a nice little launch pad or a sort out before we get to Corkscrew Road itself. The question is, what kind of lead will these two have by the time they get there? They had around about 1.5 minutes when they went through Williamstown. And they stay on this long road. It's the B31. They head southward on it all the way down to a gully they dip through just before Kersbrook called Watts Gully, which I noticed on my map. Will be where I'm sure all the riders will be absolutely laying down the Watts as they are right now. It's slightly downhill at this point away from Williamstown because they've climbed up to that point, the second and final sprint point. So no more bonus seconds available now until we get to the finish line where we have 10, 6 and 4 available. And we saw how important those 10 seconds were yesterday for Rowan Dennis, of course, in taking over the race lead, the man who hails from Adelaide originally and not too far from home, pulling on the Oka Leaders jersey. You can see him in it. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 riders back from the front. There he is. It's sort of orangey Oka jersey. The colour, by the way, folks at home, if you're not aware, is to reflect the official colour of the Australian Outback. And I think somewhere down the line, Adam, I'm presuming it's kind of supposed to be mirroring a kind of burnt sandy colour of the landscape after a long Australian summer. Something like that.
Yes, we'll go with that.
We'll go with that. It looks like after his team have just helped him, Caden Groves, I think it's Caden Groves, has gone back to get the bottles by the looks of it, and they are persisting, the boys, in the largely unchanged kit of Alpecin Deceuninck, despite the name change, still opting for the white shoes, white socks. It seems to be very much, as we look back down the peloton there, the white shoes, white socks is, in fact, I can't see anyone that hasn't got white shoes, Adam.
No.
Anyone at all?
Most people have white shoes this day and age.
Yeah.
They sell well.
That is remarkable. I'm looking through the peloton. I cannot see any other colour than white. There's one or two that have got a little bit more markings on them. That's become...
White is right.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you on that. I haven't got white, I've got silver mountain bike shoes, but my road shoes are white. And as long as you keep them clean, they look pucker. They're an absolute nightmare in the winter, though, if you haven't got a decent overshoe to try and keep them clean. But then... guess it depends where you're riding, doesn't it? You wouldn't have a problem out here. I'm guessing they reflect
or
the
on
heat.
the turbo.
On the turbo, exactly. They must reflect the heat a bit better. Look at that, just like that. We look back to our breakaway, and we have Mikel Honoré in black shoes. What's he playing at? Get with the program, Mikel. Get with the program. He, yeah, all black shoes as well. He has the, just returning to the EF Education sock colours. You explained it to me earlier, Adam. He's got the light coloured one on the right leg and the darker one on the left leg. Did you say the lighter one is the aero one? Is that right?
No, both of them are the aero ones that he's got on. They are a pair. It's the one with the black ankle, which he's got on now. They're the aero sock. So a little bit more aero. The one that is pink, as much as you can see it's pink, is the standard sock, just a normal cycling sock. But yeah, the ones with that's black at the bottom, you can't really see there because of his black shoes. It is black around the ankle, but yeah, the one with the black around the ankle, just a tiny little bit, is the aero sock.
See, we were talking about velodromes the other day as we went past that drainage ditch, well, drainage kind of pond that you suggested might make quite a nice outdoor velodrome. I still got this theory. I know it's waffle, but it sort of sits nicely with my brain at this time of the morning. It's nearly 3 o'clock in the morning here in England, where we're talking to you from. That a track rider, one aero sock on the inside, one non-aero sock on the outside leg, might just go round the track a little bit quicker. Something to do with the, you know, the slightly. I know I'm talking absolute rubbish. Try it maybe. If you've got an outdoor or an indoor track to ride today, go for the one aero sock on the inside, non-aero on the outside. See if it assists your centrifugal passage.
Please don't.
Please do.
Anyone that's listening, please don't.
Oh dear. Anyway, Adam mentioned earlier we've had some bird-related correspondence. If you want to get involved with us on Twitter specifically, send us some messages. Give us your thoughts and ideas, maybe about where this race is going to go over the weekend. Will Caleb Ewan get his sprint win tomorrow when we go into Wollongong Township? And who is going to be pulling on the final Oka Leaders jersey when we've taken in Mount Lofty 5 times on Sunday? You can find us at Adam Blythe 89, and I am at Jez Cox. Ping us your thoughts and ideas. And we'll try and get back to you and let us know what you think is going to happen today. Who's going to top out Corkscrew Hill in first place, and can they hang on if they do all the way down to the run-in at the finish? Don't forget, the men have 2k less to do than we saw the women do the other day, where the chase back after Corkscrew was quite pivotal. It's a slightly shorter one this time to take them down into Campbelltown itself. And of course we're still in vineyard country. Nice spread there of the vineyards off to the left as we look down, and over to the right the dark burnt fields, not quite the ochre jersey colour, but I think that's representing more the sort of the deeper outback. Of course we're in the Adelaide Hills here, just to the northeast of Adelaide itself. Very much the playground and sporting outlet area for the people of the city of Adelaide. We've gone past a couple of mountain bike parks already. Headed down at the moment in the direction of Simmons Hill Mountain Bike Park, which I believe is a pretty decent trail centre. And it's still that hovering gap now, 1:31. Sort of comfortable pegging, I guess, Adam, for the two riders who are out front.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get brought back no matter what happens today. This is just a case of getting out there, getting a good bit of training in, really, a little bit of an opportunity maybe if something happens. But yeah, the current situation, which they'll have updates from their team cars, is I think the inevitable will happen for these guys today, is that they will get caught with the corkscrew, but always worth a shot. You never know what might happen. Not seen big breakaways this down under, and I know that's probably to do with the sprint points and the bonus points out on the road, that the teams don't want large breaks going up the road. A lot of them don't want large breaks going up the road, so we've not seen the big fights that we normally see. I know we've never really have the pictures from the start that we can see, but we get the updates, and yeah, there's not been that massive fight that we usually see to get in the break.
No, and we've had some pretty quiet teams as well that we haven't really seen that much of yet either. I say that, I'm looking down at my start list now to think who has been quiet that we might expect to see people firing into. If there were early breakaways, you might expect, I guess, the likes of an Arkea Samsic to be playing around in them. I'm trying to think if we've even seen an Arkea Samsic. Well, we've not had that many attacks at all yet, have we? Dmitry Grudsev was our long lone attacker yesterday. We had also, I mean, Astana have been on the move all week, haven't they? It was Grudsev yesterday, Boiro yesterday, and then now today we're seeing Fellini. So they're a super motivated team in this race, Astana Kazakhstan.
They are getting ready to do a lot of pulling on the front for those sprint stages to come.
It is going to be fascinating, isn't it, to see just how well they can protect Mark Cavendish. We had a few questions, you and I think, yesterday from people saying, unrelated to this race, of course, do we think Cav can do it? And we made the point when we were talking about it yesterday, I think, didn't we? And you were saying they've only got to get it right once for that record. I say record. You were pointing out, and you're right to say this, Adam, he is already the record holder for the greatest number of Tour de France stage wins. He is the record holder, but he's the record holder along with Eddie Merckx. So what we're talking about is him then surpassing that and having the solo record all to himself.
Exactly, which we think we can. Everyone thinks he can do it. I think he can do it. The stars just have to align for him in terms of lead out, everything else. Yeah, it'd be fantastic to see. Pello Bilbao today from Bahrain victorious. I think he is going to be extremely motivated to get back sometime. He's a rider that, with the 5 riders that went up the road yesterday, I thought he might have been one of them, but he wasn't. So I think he's got a little bit of making up to do today. So we might see a very aggressive Bahrain victorious on the bottom of the corkscrew, and then maybe getting onto the corkscrew. But he's 16th overall, only 24 seconds down.
Just before we came on air, Pello Bilbao actually had a bike change and a fairly long chase to get back in, but I think the length of the chase was more about the fact that his teammates dropped back and they decided not to panic and just steadily pace him back in just before that sprint point outside the bakery in Lobathal. Yep, good shout. I thought for a second there, Adam, you were being sneaky getting in early with your pick for the stage, or have you? Have you got in there early with your pick for the stage? Because he's a bit of a demon descender as well, isn't he?
He is a demon descender. He would be a good shout, and I'm probably saying it. It would be a great shout to go for. So yeah, why not?
Right, there
Let's
you go.
Go for Pello Bilbao.
So I'm going to write this down. Adam Blythe, Pello Bilbao. Okay, I'm also going to go early. I'm not going for him. Don't worry about this.
Just in case you forget.
Yeah, no.
One person's prediction.
Adam, I think you forget. I've just turned 45. And it's very early in the morning. Yes, absolutely. My brain is like a rusty sieve.
Yes, you can't class 45 as old anymore. I mean, Valverde's pretty much still racing, and he's a year behind.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Garden Grove, sponsored by Caden Grove's family.
His dad's come out.
Yeah.
I am going to go with Alessandro Covi.
Covi? Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, see?
Are you sure you're going to go for Covi with Jay Vine being there on second in general classification and probably needing to do a job for him?
So admittedly I hadn't considered that, but that's not the point.
It's
too late.
One thing to consider.
It's too late now. It's too late. It is too late.
Good shout though. Good shout though. You never know if he's still there protecting him. But with bonus points available on the line.
There is that, yes, of course. I'm forgetting their teammates. That may be a little issue, but it's too late because I've already said it. So let's see how we go. Oh dear. Anyway, we are well inside 10k to the next climb. In actual fact, once we've gone through Kersbrook, which comes in about 4k, past the mountain bike centre that I've been mentioning, then we just start the base of this Checker Hill, which is a short and stout one. It's only a k long, but I wonder if we're already starting to see the race into it here, Adam.
Yeah, just teams making sure they're in a good position at the front, not wanting to be too far back, get a clear run at it. And then over the top it does start then just it's a slow drag with a few little bumps all the way down to the bottom of the corkscrew, so the riders will want to make sure they're in position, because even though it's a headwind, as we saw yesterday leading into the climb yesterday, the road completely blocked, not a lot of room to move up. They've only got 42 k's to go. So no doubt we'll see the road start to be blocked, and once we get onto those slopes, especially that downhill into the bottom of corkscrew, as I said, it's fast and furious. The Ks will tick off very quickly, and if you're not in position, it's going to be very hard to move up.
Well spotted with that truck that stopped up. We are actually just crossing right now Watts Gully, W-A-T-T-S Gully, I should say. And quite appropriately, the Watts starting to ramp up as they approach Chequer Hill. I noticed the elbows out style of Tour de France, four-time Tour de France winner Chris Froome leading up his Israel Premier Tech team back there.
There'll be a difference within how the peloton looks today in terms of yesterday's stage is a hard demanding stage, but it was a stage where the sprinters may still have a chance. So there's the sprinters all up at the front, the sprinters teams wanting to be at the front still to position their sprinter as far forward as possible before the bottom of the climb. They won't have that today. The sprinters will maybe do a job for their GC leader if they have one within the team, but ultimately for those guys, they'll get to the downhill, want to stay safe, or if they're in a good position, they'll just roll in, do a little job without wasting too much energy in the bottom of the corkscrew unless they really want to test themselves, and then they'll just pull the pin and roll in the gruppetto then. So there'll be a different look to the peloton in terms of how stressy it is right now, because the sprinters yesterday in this position, they'd have wanted to be at the front if they thought it would be in with a shout, whereas today they're like, we don't need to be at the front. There's not really any stress if I lose too many positions today, if I'm too far back.
Our two-man breakaway of Fabio Fellini and Mikel Honoré, who've been away for most of the stage, right from the first ascent of the day, because they were climbing straight out of the door this morning as well, and they left Norwood. They are close to that magic 60-second mark now in terms of their lead, after which we will see vehicles being pulled out from behind them, those that are there, I guess, between these two and that chasing peloton. And we are now, what, about 6k away from the top of Chequer Hill, so 5k to the base of what could be quite a stout ramp. I'll repeat that again, the maximum gradient is just under, well, let's call it 19%, 18.9% maximum gradient, and its average gradient is 9.4. That's the same average gradient as Corkscrew, actually, but Corkscrew does ramp up quite a bit steeper, up to 24.5%, nearly 25% on one of those hairpins. And there's the top 5 of the Oka Leaders jersey. The general classification, Rowan Dennis leading from Jay Ryan. As we know, all shaped by yesterday, except for that Magnus Sheffield one, which really is still on account of how well he rode in the wet of that prologue. One of the very best of those posting a time in the wet on in the evening, fading light on Tuesday evening in the Central Business District of Adelaide. I'm presuming, Adam, we feel these two can hang on to the top of Chequer Hill, but let's see, because I'm guessing the hill is also going to do a bit of damage to the legs.
Yeah, it will do, definitely.
Honoré is, we've got a bit of a contrast here in a way. We talked about Fabio Fellini at the age of 32, having already achieved quite a lot. He's got 14 wins as a professional. And Mikel Honoré, the Dane, I always think he's been around longer than he has. He's 25 years of age. Of course, he spent all of that time since he turned pro in 2018 with Patrick Lefevre's various different named Quick-Step teams. They were Quick-Step Floors when he signed for them in 2018. And he signed with EF Education Easy Post for the next 3 seasons through to the end of 2025 as well. And I think he'll be quite a handy signing for them, because he's a good all-rounder, and he can climb as well, can't he, Adam, as well?
He can indeed. I was just taking a look there, sorry Jez,
yes,
at
fine.
the leaderboard for Strava on the Corkscrew.
Oh, yeah.
And the man who is leading the race, someone pointed this out to me on Twitter, by the way, Glal Sweigel, so thank you very much. Glal Sweigel, I think yeah, that one. George Bennett is the leader with 6 minutes and 11, 22.4 kilometres an hour average speed, 424 watt average speed, where, bear in mind, George Bennett weighs pretty much as a feather. Richie Port in second, 1 second behind him. Mike Woods, another second behind that. And then Chris Hamilton, who was also in the race, 6.14. Paddy Bevan, 6.19. Dylan Van Baarle, 6th at 6.22. And then Tour de France winner, Tadej Pogačar at 6.25. So there are some very good names in there.
Absolutely. Well, George Bennett is in the race, of course. We'll see how he goes this time up it. Let's see if that record will tumble. 6 minutes and 11 seconds. Good spot, Adam. And thank you for our correspondence, folks, as well. Oh, yes, I can see it now, the leaderboard, looking down. Thank you for your correspondence, everyone who's got involved. I must admit, I am pretty bad. I'm quite good at putting it out there and then often forget to pick things up. So if I have missed out anything anyone has sent us, thank you, and I will do my best to pick things up along the way as well. But let us know who you think is going to win this one. We've already stuck our necks on the line with Adam calling Pello Bilbao. And I've gone with it before you pointed out that it was probably... You watch, he'll only go and win it now. He'll be allowed some freedom, take the pressure off his team leader. No, I don't know. I think the way... I think you're absolutely right. Those bonus seconds on the finish line could be really useful if once again there's a group that have detached themselves over the top of the corkscrew. Let's see, though. This is Kersbrook, I think we're going through right now. We've crossed back into the Adelaide Hills region. As I say, we were really just very briefly in the Barossa, the famous winemaking region, a bit further north as we went around the edge of the South Para Reservoir, and now continuing to head south on that B31, the big wide road. This will be the feed zone. It's a bit of a bun fight in there.
Yeah, there's not going to be riders taking a bottle there. You can just see how wide the peloton is, but yeah, not too many riders taking a feed. One of the Jumbo-Visma riders there, 117, Jos van Emden, one of the elder statesmen, grabbing a bag and a bottle.
A few managed to get them using the straps of the musette bag, I guess, to pick up as much as they can en route. And it's a pretty warm day out there as well now, getting up towards 25, even 26 degrees, I think, by the time they get to Campbelltown. So taking on extra fluid is crucially important. We're just going to see that feed zone again. Bidon bucket. Nice. That's the way to do it, isn't it?
3 points, I like it.
Yes, there weren't too many taking a feed there from the team carers at the side of the road. Looking to see if I saw James Knox handing up bottles. No. Got a feel for him, actually. You've got to feel. There's been a lot of... actually, you'll have seen this, Adam, I'm sure, and I'm sure fans at home will have done as well. A lot of support for James Knox over the last couple of days. I think we didn't maybe talk about it deep into the stage yesterday, but we picked on it, didn't we? What happened to him? Do you want to talk us through it and the afters, maybe?
Yes. James Knox came down on stage 1 in that crash-infested stage, and he hit his head on the floor, so he went through the protocol of, you know, making sure he didn't have concussion, talking to the doctor, and when he got back going, he had to change his bike again because he realised something was wrong with it after that. So he was quite a way down. Used the team cars for a little bit, but obviously they had to get going. And then the Soigneurs cars came past, and he got on the back of those for a couple of K. The Soigneurs cars don't follow the race, but they were on the way to the next point, so he got on the back of one of them, made a slight bit of time. Oh, and a crash in the peloton, 2 Astana riders.
Oh dear me, locked up together as well by the looks of it.
Number 27, that's Gianni Moscon there, standing up, holding his arms. And number 23 as well, I think that's Basso there, Leonardo Basso. So 2 of the Italians from the team have come down. Fingers crossed they're all right. Team cars coming along. But back to James Knox, he was out of contention fully. He was not going to get a result. He just wanted to finish the stage, which he did. But then after, the UCI decided to take him out of the race because he'd been drafting with no gain whatsoever to the race. And ultimately, James making sure he was safe enough to ride his bike for his own safety with a concussion protocol. So, yeah, I'm complete with the support that he had on Twitter in terms of the UCI, how they make decisions in terms of taking someone out of the race to make sure they're safe. If he didn't do that, he could have got on the bike with concussion, and yeah, ultimately could have come off a lot worse. In the past, there has been a couple of riders in this race. Matthew Lloyd, I think it was, that used to ride for Lotto Soudali. He didn't crash, but he had heat stroke and was descending one of the very fast descents there at 80 k an hour plus. Completely conked out, just fainted on the descent on his bike, and yeah, rode off. So for me, the UCI just made a terrible decision in terms of we want rider safety to be a priority, but we will penalise them and take them out of the race if they do that, which James Knox did. And it's not like it's a race that's just around the corner in Europe, is it? It's a race that's it's the other side of the world, basically. It's a day and a half to get home for him, so he's not going to be going home. He'll be out training down here until his flight is on the way home. So yeah, I've just got a feel for him, really. I think it's just a very daft decision from the UCI to take him out of the race for doing something which ultimately wasn't going to gain anything from.
Yep, I agree with you, and I don't think there'll be many people who do disagree either. Now, we're seeing just how steep this climb is in the run-in up to Chequer Hill, and it's enough to distance Honoré. Mikel Honoré was always going to be on paper the stronger climber of these two. He's the slightly lighter man anyway, but he goes well on this kind of terrain. Although he's looking back, because actually if they're going to stay out there much longer after this hill, they're probably going to need each other, but Honoré is kicking on.
Yeah, he is giving it a good go. Most combative rider, did we say he's probably going to be called? We had the discussion the other day, but yeah, not too far behind the peloton. You could just see Honoré just up in the distance. The gap is probably only around 30-35 seconds, so yeah, just wants to have one last attempt of staying away, but there's not too much stress in the peloton on this climb. Mark Hirschi in the back there.
Let's not forget, this is a first category climb as well, so I think we're seeing why. It's the steepness. It's only a short 1 kilometre long, but the steepness of it is what's made it a first cat climb, the highest ranking. And an opportunity here for those who want to sneak their way maybe into Jay Vine's jersey. I wonder whether Jay Vine is going to think about protecting his lead in that King of the Mountains jersey. My suspicion is we might see Alessandro Covi having a dig at this one. My man for the finish might be about to get his victory over the top of this if they can bring back Honoré. Don't forget, there are... How many points are there here? I'm saying this out loud. 10, 6, 4, 2 and 1. 100 metres to go to the top. Can he hang on?
Yeah, he's only got 100 metres to go. He can definitely hang on. The other points will be fought out behind. They're not going to bring that gap back that quickly. It'd be a very, very big effort.
Ethan Hayter just dangling a little bit at the back and a few gaps opening up. We saw Mark Hirschi on the radio just radioing ahead what was going on at the very back. Mikel Honoré, the Dane, for EF Education Easy Post, is going across the line. First to the top of Chequer Hill, the first of 2 first cat climbs that finish today's race.
If anyone's wondering what Hirschi is doing at the back there as well, as we saw the pictures through the feed zone there, not a lot of riders took bottles, and here's the little battle behind a couple of riders. That's Hindley on the front there, Jai Hindley. Just pushing on a little bit, trying to hurt the legs ever so slightly. Schmidt's not too far away there. He's got a few of his Soudal Quick-Step teammates around him. But yeah, back to Mark Hirschi is, because of that feed zone, not able to get bottles maybe. The last 34k of the race, there won't really be any more bottles out on course, any Swan years anymore. So he'll be going back just to get probably the last bottle for his team, if he can get them up to him, and just make sure they hydrate. That's Simon Yates, sorry, second wheel.
Yeah, we're just seeing that. So Fellini will have got the 6 points. Jai Hindley the next. These are riders who aren't really up there in the King of the Mountains, or certainly not seemingly going for it. Simon Yates is. So Yates has picked up some more points as well, just on the back wheel of Jai Hindley. So he'll move up a bit in that King of the Mountains competition. I'm putting a focus on it because it's my sort of mission in life as a commentator, Adam, is to try and help build the prominence of the King of the Mountains jersey across all races. I think we saw someone, I saw a few comments after stage 1 the other day trying to understand why was Luke Plapp bothered about the King of the Mountains competition. Surely he should just focus on the GC. And I read that, and there's a little part of me, I think it's partly because I guess when I first started watching cycling, I fell in love with the polka dot jersey at the Tour de France, and seeing the riders battling that out. Something about the mountains classification, I sometimes think it can be overlooked. It was a bit sad to see those comments, because it would be quite nice to see, it is quite nice to see Luke Plapp trying to get that jersey and maybe see if he can win it overall as well. It should be something that is of great prominence, not least considering there we are talking about who's got the fastest KOM on the corkscrew. Climbing and who's the best climber or the most consistent climber across a course is an important part of our sport, isn't it? So help me out here, Adam, right? We've got to build up the polka dots.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Luke Platt probably knows that he's not going to win this race overall with the Corkscrew and Mount Lofty in there, so he's just looking to win a jersey, what jersey he can win, and yeah, just doing that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing, going for a few mountain points. The climbs are not mega long either. Is that Jai Hindley on the attack? Possibly. Ooh. Might be, yeah, right at the front of affairs and really pushing on, trying to catch a few people off guard maybe. Shrinking it out as well, massively. Yeah. But yeah, good on Luke Platt going for it. He's in his home country race in Australia, so yeah, why not have a go and get on the podium, even though it's not for the overall victory maybe. Chapeau for him.
Mikel Honore in full legal descending position. This is where, not much over a year ago, in fact, no, would it be a year ago? Yeah. We'd still be seeing some kind of top tube tucking going on here, Adam, wouldn't we? This time last year.
This is bringing back memories, this part of the course here. We've got Geraint Thomas there just off the back a little bit. He'll no doubt get back on, but this descent is quick. They do a little left and right at the bottom, then they just drag up ever so slightly again, but I used to have so much fun doing this race when you're going down these descents, and it was back in the day when I was doing it, when the top tube was still legal, so you had all the peloton basically sat on the top tube. It's great.
Adam is, of course, referring to the Super Tuck that was outlawed on the 1st of April last year. Yeah, this group are quite well detached off the back. Geraint Thomas in amongst them, just working their way back on. I think they'll get back on by the looks of it.
Yeah, they'll get back on. They've got a corner coming up. That's Miles Scottson there as well. Looks of things. There's Geraint Thomas making sure he's going to get back on. He's probably looking at these riders and being like, we're off the back, guys. Why are you looking around to me or each other to do some work? Just work together and let's get back on in the peloton. There we go. He's backed off in the front now. Those riders will ride back on. No doubt Caleb Ewan and a couple of the sprinters who've got distance off the back as well.
Mikel Honore is hanging on to around about 25, 30 seconds, something like that. He's tucked himself down nice and aero on that brand new Super 6 that there's been a fair bit of talk about this week. Not yet available on the market, but I'm presuming it has to be by some point fairly soon, because that's one of the UCI rules, of course, isn't it, that all these bikes and equipment need to be available to the mass market for purchase, despite the fact that they'll be rather expensive, I'd have thought.
It is a rule, but it's a rule that you can get around as well. I know that that's the same across all sports, including the track. And I know that British Cycling, they made their British Cycling bike, the Hope bike that they have now. You can buy that immediately if you want to. I think there's a little bit of a wait time, but the previous bike that they had, you could buy it, you could pre-order it, you would get it probably, I think it was 11 years after you brought it. So yeah, you can buy the bike, but you will get it in 11 years time.
And it'll be one of the ones that the team was using 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Cleaned up. That's interesting. Yeah, that is that is the rule. I promised the viewers at home that I would try and work through the UCI rule changes during the course of these 6 days of racing. We've done handlebars. We've done the additional reach, the extra 100 mil of reach that riders are allowed in front of the hub of the front wheel, allowing taller riders to get stretched out a bit more. Likewise, for time trial positions, there's been more leniency added to the reach of tri-bars for taller riders, although the riders are grouped into kind of height categories as well, so it'll work well for some and possibly not work so well for others, that one as well. The other big change has been in UCI points and the way they are apportioned to races, and I'm sure, Adam, you'd agree, as we just watch the gap coming right down to Mikel Honore now. We'll deal with the points issue now, maybe. Some of the adjustments have been made to adjust issues that people had with seeming unfairness between the way different races were classified and the number of points you could gather at them, particularly as last year, of course, we were coming to the end of a UCI points cycle. These things work across 3-year cycles, of course. Some of the changes mean increased points for individual stages of stage races, so the stage wins themselves carry more UCI points now. I couldn't tell you exactly how much, but I know that's going right across the board. Increase of points for Grand Tour GCs as well, so the final placing on general classifications carrying a greater points weighting. The monuments as well have their own points category from this season, or they will when the monuments get started with Milan-San Remo. And just tagging on to that as well, talking about monument races that are and aren't monuments, Strade Bianche moving up from the bottom to the top tier in the UCI points ranking, so making that race even more prominent and important. The other race as well that's been boosted are the World and Olympic Road Race Championships, so extra UCI points waiting for them to try and balance things out a little bit. It's always going to be tricky to get that one right, but I think they've tried, the UCI, to answer some of the concerns about the weighting, Adam, and maybe the individual stage, the increase of individual stage weighting rather than just the general classification is surely a good thing. Is there anything in there that piqued your interest?
No.
Jolly good. Moving on. I just needed to get out there. It's doing my bit of public service announcing, just to let people know these things. Listen, don't take my word for it, folks at home. Go and look it up on the UCI website. Read the official press release, because I may have just been reporting things that are not 100% accurate, but they have given you the gist of it there. There's definitely been some adjustments made in the weighting of things. All of which riveted Adam Blythe. He was loving it, listening to every single word rather than checking his Twitter feed while I talked about UCI points.
Sorry, what was that, Jez?
Exactly. There we go.
I wasn't checking my Twitter feed. I was checking the length, how far it is until we get to the official downhill before the corkscrew starts. And I was just looking at the map on VeloViewer.
This you've already given me some insight into these descents. We've got a couple of tasty ones, haven't we, in the run into the corkscrew and then the descent off it as well. Which one is tougher?
What, in terms of descending?
Yeah, technical.
The one after the corkscrew is more technical. Smaller road, tighter corners, you can't see very much around them, where the one before it is a big, wide road and mega fast. So you can... you can knock down there at 100k an hour quite easily, 110k an hour. There's not a lot you have to brake for. And if you've got some big old kahunas on you, definitely don't have to brake down there.
Splendid.
Sadly, though, it is a little bit of a headwind down there. If it was a tailwind, they could really rock down there quickly.
And they're certainly in more twisty, turny terrain now as they go through and alongside again the River Torrens, picking up the river again at this point alongside the Millbrook Reservoir. They go through Cuddly Creek, which once you're in that peloton might not seem so cuddly, and certainly not when they know what's coming as well. They skirt along the edge of the eucalypt forest and the Kangaroo Creek Reservoir. Mate, I've got to put a mate in after that one. And then they start the base of what could well be the pivotal climb in this Santos Tour Down Under. The difference being is what we have coming on Sunday, Mount Lofty, is nowhere near as hard as the corkscrew climb, but it's taken in 5 times. So Sunday stage quite different with its multiple laps, those 5 laps of the climb including Mount Lofty, almost like a kind of Adelaide Hills Criterium style in the way that it's going to be ridden, and we'll wait to see just how much impact Lofty has on this race overall. It's the climb that the race director Stuart O'Grady has been waiting over the last 2 years when the race hasn't happened to bring to the race. Corkscrew has been in this race before on 2 or 3 occasions. I think the last time it was used was 2015. I've got to check my stats on that. 2013, sorry, was the last time it was used. And it is a favourite. In fact, this sort of wedge out in this direction of the Adelaide Hills, some of Stuart O'Grady's favourite riding terrain. We've already been along the Basket Range Road, which in the pre-race press release, O'Grady stated as being his favourite place in South Australia to ride. We've been through there today. You can see why. Nice testy terrain as well. And pretty fast rolling roads, Adam, as well. The surfaces look quite good, although they are much wider, bigger roads, as we've been used to in this race.
Yeah, they are big, nice roads out here in Australia. It allows a lot of riders to make their way up to the front to get in that good position, let's say. And it doesn't have that sort of, when we see Racing Europe, we see races into corners to make sure they're at the front, especially in Belgium and the Classics, to get in front for a certain section, whereas here, because the roads are nice and wide, there isn't that sort of crucial moment. Although I'm saying that, today there is one. When they get to the bottom of the corkscrew, the road definitely narrows, so there will be a push and there will be a fight to get into that corner first to make sure they're in a good position, so they don't have to make up places on a slight drag before it starts.
Mikel Honore here is climbing towards Gummaracha, and that means he'll be fairly close to the world record world record giant rocking horse that we discussed earlier. Hopefully we get a chance to see it in a shot. Adam's seen it before because he's ridden past it. He has not ridden on it. And I believe it has a kind of a viewing platform at the top of it you can jump on. I don't know whether it's sort of articulated, so if you get enough people up there rocking backwards and forwards, you get the thing to move. Oh dear. I'm not sure. It's the old fist pumping again, the smashing of the quads to try and relieve the pressure.
Fellaini as well, who was in the break. A couple of days we've seen cramp now. Obviously the famous one, the bottle thrower, Bettiol yesterday. But yeah, it's not like it's mega hot out there today either. It's roughly 20.8 degrees. It's probably a little bit hotter than that, but that's the weather forecast at the minute. But yeah, you don't really see cramp in bike racing that much this day and age. It might be to do with the salts and everything, but yeah, strange one to see it 2 days on the trot, on short stages as well.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just me, Adam, and you mentioned you've had cramp before. I've had cramp in I've had some really bad cramp in the past, usually just through bad hydration and not getting enough salt in and what have you. Cramp is one of those strange things, is that if you ask enough experts, the thing you'll find, and I think the thing you'll find is that no one can actually tie down exactly what it is. It can be a number of things and different things in different people, but I must admit, I've never thought of punching, literally hitting my quad as hard as I can to try and get it to loosen up. Shaking it out, maybe, grabbing it and shaking it out. We often see, the old leg shaking. I mean, Julian Alaphilippe does it about every 4 or 5 pedal strokes. But punching your quad to try and release it is either it's, I have to say, maybe it's just me thinking this, sometimes I wonder whether that's done a little bit more for the cameras, as if to indicate really clearly, I definitely have cramp, that's why I'm being dropped. I don't know whether there could be a little bit of that in it, but to actually punch your quad is just, seems a bit unusual. I have to admit, by the way, that looks like a cut down number to me, Adam. My UCI rule book says... We didn't see it. You didn't see that, folks. On the back of, actually, I won't even say who it is. I don't want to point it out.
Please move up,
Don't go there.
Hater. Please move up, Ethan Hayter. I want him to do so well this year. He's such a good rider to me that he's got everything in his artillery that he could ever need as a bike rider, and it's all there to use. I just wish he'd get stuck in more at the front. I mean, he might not have a job to do today, but he's got the capability to do a job. I don't know how he's feeling. He might not be feeling great, but through tradition of what we've seen from Ethan, he likes to sit down the back. He likes to pace himself up these climbs, not too much stress, but just wish we could get, just take him to the front.
There you go. I think there's a job here for you, Adam. I was trying to tempt you out of retirement yesterday. Maybe that's it. Have a word with...
Ethan knows how I feel about him. I think he's absolutely amazing. He's a brilliant bike rider.
Yeah. No, as Brits, we are
That's
definitely spoiled.
Teams on the front as well. So you'd think he'd be up there with them. Sorry, Ethan, I've done this way too many times and give you a little bit of grief.
Well, G has gone from the back to the front in exactly the same way that you'd like Ethan Hayter to, because we saw him off the back. He got his way back in, had a little stout word of those who are around him. Come on, lads, let's get back in, ride through the peloton, and now he's on the front laying down the watts. And this should see that gap come right down now, and it's thinning out the peloton. They're at warp speed right now. This is really quick, isn't it?
It's very quick indeed. You can see how relaxed they are at the back. Some of the riders that are not going to be in contention, not really, just wanting to get through today with minimum effort, focusing on the next couple of stages. But yeah, this is going to get fast. This road that they're turning onto is quite twisty as well. I remember when we had Jay McCarthy, we rode down this road quite quickly, and it's one of the roads that has got a couple of tight corners on a couple of tight bends, and if you can be on the front down here, the peloton strings out quite a lot, and if you're ill positioned towards the back, it's quite hard to move up after that.
Well, it looks like they've got the elder statesman of the Ineos Grenadiers team at the front. I think that's Ben Swift along with Geraint Thomas right at the front, laying down the pressure. They've turned that left-hander to bring themselves alongside the reservoir at Millbrook. They're actually along the edge of a place called Chain of Ponds, which is an old town that I think in the end was demolished in order to make way for the expansion of the reservoir up here at this high point. And they leave that as they go alongside the edge of that big reservoir and head in towards Cudley Creek, and then the build up alongside the Kangaroo Creek reservoir itself to the base of Corkscrew on Corkscrew Road. The build-up has already started to Corkscrew because these riders, their teams, their director sportives, the fans, you guys watching at home, know that we're headed into what could be the big sort-out of this year's Santos Tour Down Under on the slopes of Corkscrew. 2.3 kilometres classified, that climb, but ramping up to 24.4%. I'm building it up. It better be a good one, this, Adam.
It is a very good one indeed. The whole run into it, the running has started already. The tension is building already. Riders wanting to be in position. We can see Ben Swift just change with Geraint Thomas on the front, keeping his team in that position. So it's not just the climb, it's the build-up into it, it's the race down into it, it's the descent, the fast, super fast descent into it, the tight corner at the bottom, the narrow road leading into it. And when you get onto the descent, even though it doesn't, the KOM doesn't start immediately, it drags up for quite a while, a couple of tight corners at the bottom as well when they get on there, and then it just slowly drags up, and you see riders one by one losing a bit of space, riders that have been ill-positioned leading into it, moving past them, and then you get on there. And I think what makes it as well is there'll be a lot of crowds out today as well, being very, very close to Adelaide in itself, so a lot of the fans will ride out, park up, get their spot, and cheer the heroes on.
Yeah, we're making our way right back towards the centre of Adelaide itself, of course. Close to where we started this morning at 20 to 12 in Norwood. Campbelltown is only just north of there, right on the edge of the business district. Very close to where we were watching the prologue. Of course, on Tuesday you could walk out from there in this direction in order to... It'd be a fair old stout walk, but you definitely could walk it out in order to get there in time on the edge of the Adelaide Hills.
This is it now. This is the start of the descent. You whip down here for quite a while, then you've got a couple of little drags, only 400-500 metres long, but it really takes the speed out of you. So if the riders, they'll come into it with a lot of speed. The riders at the front, they can either really push on to string things out even more, but the effort you have to make if you're behind, and a crash in the peloton there, no. Cofidis rider, 184
Corbin
as well
Strong.
from it.
Corbin Strong is down.
Israel Premier Tech, Chris Froome. Yeah. That's nice. Chris Froome stopping and helping him there, but his lever fully snapped off. His left-hand side completely just detached from the bike there.
Let's remember, Corbin Strong is 5th on general classification right now, so this is a nervy moment for the Israel Premier Tech boys. The Cofidis rider that's down is Harrison Wood, the British rider.
This is going to be very, very difficult now for Strong to get back onto this peloton. He won't make too much time on down the hill. He's got a teammate with him in terms of Chris Froome, but on the uphills he'll really have to almost sprint up, then be a long sprint to make any time back. He'll get the use of the team cars hopefully for him. But yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult now because it is a super fast run, and with these technical... It's quite a technical road. The road is fast and flowing, but just look how strung out the peloton is. If you're at the back now, if you're in position, just the gaps that will appear ever so slightly as well, that's time that you've got to make up. So crucial part of the race now, and we could see why there was a fight by a lot of the teams to make sure they're in a good position.
That is a real shame for Corbin Strong. He's been riding so well this race, sitting in 5th place on general classification, and he's having the pressure laid on by Ineos Grenadiers at the front. I mentioned at the beginning of the day that they would have been rueing from not having a rider yesterday in that leading group of 5 who rode away over the top of Nettle Hill. And they're now using the numbers, 3 of them at the front. I don't know if Magnus Sheffield is one of those 3. We're looking out for Sheffield. He sits in 3rd place on general classification. This is the 4-time Tour de France champion, Chris Froome, trying to bring Corbin Strong back in. Now, there's a combination you wouldn't necessarily expect to see this picture, would you?
No, not at all indeed. But as we mentioned, you can just see the road. All these corners don't break. So for the peloton especially, stringing out is not going to be a bad thing for them. But just with one teammate at the minute, the other riders will have to wait quite a while for these two to come back to, and then the effort they'll have to make down the descent against a peloton which is fighting to be at the front is it's going to be a hard run to catch up, and the effort he'll have to make obviously before the corkscrew is he does not want to make that. So again, we're seeing one of the GC riders been watching, like Michael Matthews yesterday, having a mechanical or a crash in possibly the worst time ever.
Imagine that as well, Adam, who are watching it. Corbin Strong, 22 years of age, the Kiwi, and he's got the 4-time Tour de France champion Chris Froome to pace him back on. Chris Froome had grabbed his bike, was immediately there to help him and doing his work as a, what can you call it, mega domestique to work his way back in.
Yeah,
yeah.
Rowan Dennis there, quite a long way back. He's got a couple of teammates around him. I think that's Jos van Emden behind him. He's got a teammate, a couple of riders just in front of him. They'll want to move him up as quick as possible, get him into position. I've said the road is wide, which it is, but you can just see how many riders want to be at the front. That little bubble at the front, that packet of the pocket of riders, making sure they're staying up there, fighting for position. So for Dennis, it'll either be one of two things. Saying to his teammate, excuse me, that guys, there's no point in trying to move up now, there's no point in trying to fight because we'll waste energy. Let's wait for one of these little bumps that will come later, and at that time with a big round road, that's when we'll move up, make one effort instead of 10, 20 little ones instead.
Well, that's bad news if it's correct what we're seeing, because the timing I'm seeing is saying that that Chris Froome and Corbin Strong 2-up is a minute behind this fast-moving peloton, and that would be a real shame for Corbin Strong to have been caught up in that. He appeared to be, I don't actually see whether he was actually tangled up with Froome. I'm not sure whether Froome came down in that, but he was certainly stopped straight away.
Froome was towards the back. I saw him just before, and he was towards the back. So Chris in a fortunately quite a good position to be able to help his teammate, being able to see the crash, brake for it, slow down, seeing his teammates in there, and being able to respond to it. If he was up at the front like his teammates probably were, at the speed they were going, 60k an hour, 65k an hour, it will take them a long time, as I said, to get back to his teammates. So yeah, luckily for Corbin, he had the 4-time Tour de France winner Chris Froome there on hand.
Helpful. Talking of helping out, Kim Hajduk is the German rider who's riding for Ineos Grenadiers, come through to do a long hard turn on the front. They've still got two riders there. I think it's Kim Hajduk, and struggling to see who the other one is. I'm not sure whether Ben Swift is still up there. We've seen Geraint Thomas drop off a little bit after a long, hard drive from him. He's still there or thereabouts somewhere.
These are these little kickers I was on about. Not too steep. Jay Vine there right up to the front, just tucked in behind Luke Pack. Sheffield is just behind him in that white jersey still. You know, Alessandro Covi on the right-hand side from UAE, looking to get with his teammate. Mark Hershey as well up there. Yeah, these little kickers what I was talking about, just enough to string things out a little bit. Geraint Thomas, that answers your question, Jez.
There we go. Don't forget, if you're looking for Jay Vine, folks, he is wearing that white jersey with the green dots on it. Black shorts of UAE Team Emirates, but the white jersey with the green dots and the sort of stripy black and white helmet as well.
See how difficult it's going to be now for Corbin Strong to be able to move up on these roads, how strung out it is. The riders in this position are not going easy at all. You can see the body language of them rocking and rolling. They're trying hard even in 20, 30th position. It's not like they're just making time up very quickly. The pace is on and it is hard. 10 Ks now before the bottom of the corkscrew.
Yeah, and don't forget, there's 5.5k really from the top of the corkscrew down to the finish in Campbelltown. Downhill all the way until the final little turn where it levels out towards the finish. This is the big sort out. This is the expected general classification sort out today, although we had something of one yesterday with Rowan Dennis taking over the race lead. Ben O'Connor moving up on the right-hand side. As Adam said, the build-up is formally on now. They've got that 10k now between here and the top of the corkscrew, but constantly undulating. They've still got plenty of downhill to come too.
They do have plenty of downhill to come. They're fast downhills coming. There's another one of those little kickers there that just strings things out. Caleb Ewan recovering, getting ready for tomorrow. And you could just see, although the climbs don't look too difficult, they're hard enough for Caleb to say, nah, don't need to do that. I can just cruise in now. I know that I'll be safe within the time limit. I'm not going to make these big efforts, because the efforts that the riders are making on the front now, they are not easy at all. And over the top of the climb, you want to keep the speed on, so it's not just the climb of getting to the top and going, that's that done. Get over the top, and then that's the hard bit where they have to keep the pace high to make sure they can hold position still, keep their leader Jay Vine at the front in that safe position. So it is just, it's like a time trial with mini little sprints in there.
Yeah,
but in a peloton.
Nasty end to this stage. It's going to be a hard day, this. And we're seeing, of course, why my pick for the day was utterly foolish, Adam, because Alessandro Covi's been laying it down on the front as well. He's got Jay Vine in his wheel. I think that's Covi still on the front. Jay Vine's second wheel in that Mountains jersey. So Vine already really well placed right up at the front, with still quite a way to go to the base of the climb proper. We've got a fair bit of descending to go. But sensible riding by Jay Vine, maybe staying out of trouble up there with his team.
Yeah, she's just in the perfect place, really. He's got one rider in front of him, Covi. He's in a very good position, although he's, tucked in at second wheel now at the minute. You could argue that it's a bit too far forward. He needs to take a little bit more shelter, but it's a good place to be.
Alexis Reynard there just dangling off the back. We hope Harrison Wood, for the British fans who are watching, hope Harrison Wood's all right. He'd certainly had a lot of blood coming out of his left shoulder, but didn't appear to have a break from any of the clear indications anyway, but he had come down pretty hard in the middle of the road there in the crash that took down Corbin Strong, who still sits on paper in 5th place. Actually does their Citroën move up now. Now, we did see Connor oh my goodness me, I think everyone's still up all right there, but a big swirl in the middle of the peloton.
Yeah, this is the last sort of little kicker now before they really drop down fast into the bottom of the corkscrew. They go past the dam on the left, swings round to the right, and then you've got quite a steep downhill for about 1.5 kilometres of flat before they take that left turn into the corkscrew. You can see the riders almost sprinting to try and get to the front.
Mikel Scher is the tall figure in the Agi Dessert Citroën jersey there with the brown shorts. He has Ben O'Connor about 3 or 4 wheels back as well, so the Australian climber well placed to take advantage of this maybe. He's not up there high on general classification, but could be a climb that would suit Ben O'Connor really nicely actually. He has got a good kick on him.
He has got a good kick on him indeed. I'm just trying to look where Ben O'Connor is, just sat behind Mickey Shah there. So yeah, he's in a good position, and he needs to be. If he wants to have a go today, he needs to be in a good position, and I'm sure that he will have a go today. We've seen him throughout this race trying to make sure he stays up at the front as much as possible, and with his team looking after him now, that speaks volumes that he does want to have a good go today.
Now, our Australian fans might not be too pleased to see Luke Plapp right at the back of that group, the Ineos Grenadier in the National Champions jersey, but he is back there. He's still got time to move up, of course. The rider who's on the front really pushing the pace, and his ideal man to be doing it is the rider who came 3rd in the prologue, the Dane, Julius Johansson of Entourage Circus Wanty. He's pressing the pace up there as well. I wonder who he's thinking of in terms of today's setup. That's interesting. They've got 2 riders up there pressing the pace at the front, led by Johansson.
If you're wondering now how fast these riders are going, they're probably knocking on about 90k an hour, 85k an hour. It doesn't look it because of these big wide roads, but they are motoring right now. This is the flat section just before they take the turn. They've got round about, I think they've got another slight little downhill to come, but if you're a little bit too far back now, if you can use the slipstream from behind of the other riders, make up a few positions, great place to do it. I wonder where Corbin Strong is, how far he's behind right now. I'm trying to get any updates, but like I said earlier, it's going to be very, very difficult to make any time up when the riders are fighting position and going downhill this quickly.
The latest timing I'm seeing on him and Chris Froome is now just under a minute, 55 seconds. And if that's the case, they have actually clawed back a little bit. They also must be absolutely shredding down here. Froome being, it's a tight one, isn't it, Adam? I can see that.
Yeah. So now they are on the road of the corkscrew, but you can just see how narrow it is, a couple of turns, but it drags up now, and if you're a little bit far back, the sprint out the corner, the riders will keep the pace on at the front, and it's just effort that you don't necessarily want to be making just before you have to make your maximum effort on the corkscrew.
So let me remind viewers, 2.3 kilometres now to the top, 4 main switchbacks, but some little winding undulations along the way as well, and it's a pretty gradual one all the way up. Average 9.2% and a max gradient 25% in a couple of those hairpins.
Yeah, they've got a little bit longer before the official KOM starts. I think it starts within around 2k from here, and then they really get onto the official KOM before when it's measured does start. But for me, this is the start of the climb. They're going uphill.
Luke Plapp is still dangling a bit at the back here, Adam. I don't know whether this is deliberate or whether he's on a bad day. We saw him so active in the first 2 road stages. It's not just me spotting this. I've seen others mentioning it the last few days. He does tend to ride out in the wind a fair bit, and he's having to work hard there at the sort of elastic end of this peloton. It's only going to get worse if he stays there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not. I don't think he's on a bad day. I just think that the pace is on. That's all it is, really. We can question it, but ultimately, this is a hard part of the race. He's had to put in some work earlier on in the race, not just today, but in the whole race. Michael Matthews right up with his team leader there, Simon Yates as well, just in the front in the blue and white. But yeah, it's not that he's on a bad day whatsoever. It's just hard. The racing's hard, and that's why he's at the back. Not the best position for Rowan Dennis here. You can just see him moving up. One of his teammates done already, but Rowan Dennis, a couple of teammates around him who want to move up a little bit with minimal effort as possible. A couple more riders pulling the pin there now.
And there may well be some riders we've not mentioned yet so far in this race who are going to try and affect themselves. And I've got a feeling about Ben O'Connor. There's a lot of work being done by Agi-Dessert Citroën team. Dorian Godon and Alex Baudin making his World Tour debut here, pressing the pace at the front to try and set things up. We've seen Mickey Scher do exactly that and swing off too. I think it's Dorian Godon who's on the front now, the number 13, doing his bit for his team leader, and all the while Jay Vine sits back there as well, just waiting.
Dennis is a long way back there as well. He's in about 20th position. Trying to move up. George Bennett now, the Strava KOM leader, moving up towards the front to his teammate. Mark Hirschi's well on the left-hand side, another UAE rider, so Vine with two teammates around him. Shackman from the Bora team looking after Jai Hindley.
This is Nons Peters now coming to the front, our long lone breakaway rider of stage 1. Peters always good in this kind of terrain, and you can see Jay Vine right in the middle of the shot there in that white and green, very light green dotted King of the Mountains jersey. Still looks comfortable, Adam.
He looks comfortable indeed, and if it's anything to go by his performances this year, the Australian Time Trial Championships in his attack yesterday, and his second place, he is on great form.
Well, Ben O'Connor looks good. He's sitting back in about 5th wheel, watching his teammates, doing everything they can to try and set things up. George Bennett, as you picked out, looks good. Is our Oka jersey slipping a bit, Adam? There's gaps around him all the time here.
This is this point in the race, though, where the domestics are still there, setting that super high tempo, making it very, very difficult. So Rowan's probably saying, I'm not moving up now. I'm not going into that red zone before the hardest part of the climb still is to come. He'll just stick to his watch, to his speed, to know what he can do. Because he doesn't want to go above his threshold, go into the red zone, because there's no coming back once you've gone into the red. So he's just trying probably just to ride at his own tempo while not going too deep. Pale Bilbao on the right-hand side moving up. Oh, he's looking good, Jez. He's looking good.
Yeah, he's your pick for the day, of course. Adam Yates likewise looking good. You know, watching the UAE Team Emirates riders here makes me think, Adam, the kind of team that Jay Vine has moved into, having come from Alpecin Phoenix last year into this team. He's got some super teammates.
He has got some super teammates. Just looking at Rowan Dennis there, after everything I just said to try and make it sound like he's not suffering, he definitely is suffering, but by the looks of things he was slipping a little bit further back, so don't think it's going to be Rowan's day today. Ooh. George Bennett there, still on the big dog as well, still in the big ring.
Wow. And remember, folks at home, there are tiny gaps in the general classification. Rowan Dennis only had 3 seconds over Jay Vine, who's looking so good on this climb. And Jay Vine's team are really laying it down now. George Bennett, as Adam said, 6 minutes 11, his KOM record on Strava on this climb. And there is the Oka leader's jersey, and he is going backwards. There's daylight cracking open around him, and he's turning squares with those feet too, by the looks of it. Really grinding at this point. It's not just him, a large portion of this peloton as well, really starting to suffer at the back as we head into the corkscrew proper.
Yeah, this is the first corner on the corkscrew, and this is where it really ramps up. They've got another left turn coming up, but this is ultimately the hardest part of the climb. This next 700 metres before it flattens off ever so slightly, this is where they can make the difference, and that is what George Bennett is doing right now, really pushing on. The speed that they're going up this climb is fast. It's unbelievable.
Bennett and Hirschi, the two UAE Team Emirates riders, just setting the pace for the current King of the Mountains leader, Jay Vine, who looks so good. And here he is, he's taken over himself. And we're going to see a sort out similar to yesterday, I think, because Yates is very comfortable by the looks of things on the back wheel of Jay Vine. And they've started early. This is the second switchback. Jay Vine digging and just looking back to see what the gap is. These two are going clear by themselves, Adam.
Wow, yeah, they are motoring now. Jay Vine, you can just see there looking back the acceleration, and look at the gap opening up. Mark Hirschi in the background, Pale Bilbao. Let's not forget, Bilbao is very good at this. He's very good at pacing himself. It's only a short climb, but he's another rider, as I mentioned about Rowan Dennis, wanting to pace himself. He won't go into the red. He's one of these riders that claws himself back, but there's not a lot of time for him to do that on this climb today, because when they get round this corner, it does start to flatten off ever so slightly, but Vine looking brilliant, Yates looking brilliant, Bilbao slowly trying to get back on terms. Let's not forget they've got descent, and Bilbao, very, very capable descender indeed.
There is a Cofidis rider there trying to come across. I'm not sure it isn't Victor Lafay, actually, on the back wheel of Mark Hirschi, who is having a good day. Hirschi fans will be pleased to see this. We saw him press the restart button, the lap button on his computer before going into this climb, so he's pacing himself well. I think that is Victor Lafay back there. And here's your pick for the day. Pello Bilbao just now steadily working his way into this climb and solo right now, trying to go across to our 2 leaders.
Yeah, he hasn't got a lot of time to work his way into it, though, because they have around 500 metres to go before the top of this climb. Now, this is the flatter section I was talking about, where you can get into the rhythm. They take a tight right turn at the top, and then it's a descent all the way down to the finish. Rowan Dennis just not with the legs that he'd hoped for.
No, the Oka jersey, folks at home, is going to be changing its owner at the end of this, unless we can have some mega chase on the descent. Don't forget, over the top they have just under 6 kilometres to go before the finish in Campbelltown, but it's going to be quite some chase this, because Jay Vine is flying. Pello Bilbao has hooked up with them now, so we have 3 in the lead. Bilbao, Yates and Vine leading before they've gone over the top. They're not quite there yet. We'd expect to see Jay Vine taking maximum points at the top of this first category climb. He's in the Mountains jersey already. Yates, it should be said, there's me trying to build up the Mountains jersey. Yates is also up there in that competition. He has 6 points. He's 4 behind Jay Vine. So maybe Yates might choose to jump round him before they even get to it and get a little bit of a gap before that descent. Big crowd, as Adam said, on the corkscrew. It's the second time this week they've seen top World Tour racing right here.
The top.
There it
now
is.
Down to the finish line. Tight, and well, not tight, but a narrowish road on this descent here. They won't want to take many risks, but Bilbao, I'm sure that he'll probably try to push on a little bit, put the riders under pressure, try to force them to make a mistake, get on the brakes early and open up a little bit of a gap. There is a slight little nudge of a kicker just before they turn right onto that finish straight, but it's nothing that these riders won't be able to deal with. But Bilbao, just look at the way he sits on the bike, look at the way he's looking around the corners. These riders are chasing one. Is that Miles Scottson there from FDJ? No, Rudy Mollard.
Oh, good ride by Mollard. We've not even mentioned him at all yet in this race, have we? Had a brilliant season last year, Rudy Mollard, and proving that today's terrain is to his liking too. Victor Lafay is in that second group as well, along with Mark Hershey. We'll see if they can hook up with our 3 leaders. But that's the sort out over the top. Simon Yates, Pello Bilbao and Jay Vine was the leader over the top of Corkscrew. Arguably on paper the hardest climb of this year's Santos Tour Down Under, and the newly crowned national time trial champion Jay Vine proving to be the strongest climber as yet in this race.
Let's see, he's definitely got the form at the minute. His team doing a fantastic job. Let's not forget Mark Hershey's behind. He won't do a tap with those 2 other riders, Lafay and I've forgotten his name, Rudy Mollard. Apologies. Yeah, these riders working well together. Simon Yates responding. Bilbao clawing his way back onto those 2 riders on the climb. 4.6k to go, fast and furious all the way down to the line, and then a slight downhill sprint all the way to the finish as well.
Well, this is going to be fascinating. It'll be fascinating to see what groups might come up. They've got to keep this pressure on all the way. They know that, of course. Folks at home, you are watching the final 5 kilometres of this, the pivotal general classification stage, the Friday stage between Norwood to Campbelltown. We've had really been waiting. We've been waiting all stage for this point to get to the corkscrew, and this is what the top of the corkscrew has spilt out. The dig, as we saw yesterday from Jay Vine on Nettle Hill, the final classified climb yesterday, doing exactly the same today and making it look so easy to draw himself and Simon Yates clear. Pello Bilbao just winding his way across to those 2 to join them just before the top of the corkscrew. And these are the 3 that have been spilt out on the really fast descent. They have 3 kilometres to go now, according to the sign at the side of the road. And it is Simon Yates who's laying on the pressure through these corners. The gaps behind we can't be entirely certain of until they're probably off the bottom of the classified part of this descent and in towards the finish. But these 3... looking at it visually, they're being chased by Victor Lafay, Rudy Mollard and Mark Hershey. Surely Hershey will not contribute to that chase, will he, Adam?
No, he won't, definitely won't. These are the riders behind that. Schmidt just by the looks of things there. So Schmidt not done a bad job there, around 30 seconds behind. Now he's got 2 teammates with him. That's brilliant news for Schmidt that they're able to push on and help him claw back a little bit of time there. But these riders, Jay Vine currently leading the race now. He's moved himself into the overall position. Simon Yates 21 seconds back, then Bilbao 24 seconds back. 2 kilometres to go.
And let me remind people, bonus seconds on the line, 10 seconds, 6 seconds and 4 seconds. Historically, throughout its 23-year history, the Santos Tour Down Under has come down 2 seconds. In fact, on a couple of occasions, it's come down to milliseconds. So everything important, and those bonuses on the line will be critical. These riders, of course, will be going for the stage win, but they will also be thinking about those bonus seconds after that stage win is decided. Let me remind you, Adam Blythe's pick, Pello Bilbao, for this win today. Wound his way nice and calmly across to these two who'd attacked hard, and he's now pushing the pace on the descent. As we mentioned, he is one of the best descenders in this peloton, but he's got very illustrious company in terms of descending talent. Jay Vine, despite the fact that he's still a relatively, I guess, a relatively new rider at this level, having turned pro so late in his career, showing just how good he is. There's 1K to go. He's attacking, not waiting for the finale either, is he? That is an attack.
That is definitely an attack. I mean, not probably the best place to do so in a downhill with Bilbao tucked in the wheel, but yeah, just that little acceleration there, wanting to bring out the time gap. I wonder if he sits up. No, he just wants to get as much time as he can on his rivals behind. I'll take this right-hand turn now, then it's a straight downhill all the way to the finish line. Simon Yates on the back, right position, can see what's happening. Pello Bilbao.
Look at the finish.
Now we'll have to look around, but there's the line and for the finish line.
We can see it, and you could hear "Go on, Yatesy" being shouted. But Jay Vine's just going to go for this. I think he's thinking far more about the general classification now. He's down the middle of the road. He's not even hugging the barriers. Bilbao waiting. Your pick for the day, Adam's going to go, but he's got Yates on his wheel. Can Yates come off the wheel? Has he got the speed left? It's going to be so close between these two. Bilbao is open. Yates is open too. It's going to be a dip. Ooh! Oh, the hand is in the air from Pello Bilbao. What a descent. Adam Yates' pick looks like he's taken it on the day. What a ride by him. A great climb, a steady drive through, and here's the sprint coming up behind them. That looks like Jay Vine trying to take more bonus seconds because he knows there's not going to be any bonus seconds for him, is there? But he's going to go for it anyway. And Matthews is there. He'd hung on. Matthews was there, and he's going to take the sprint as well. Bling Matthews on a good day today. We haven't mentioned him really, Adam, but he was there.
He was there indeed. That group with Hershey looks to be like it got caught. They were 27 seconds behind across the line there, but yeah, Bling, as we know, is a very capable rider on these situations as well. That climb not that long, the corkscrew for him, so yeah, he's done a fantastic ride. But Bilbao, how quick was that sprint? I thought Yates said he didn't have enough gears. He had to sit down, sit in the saddle and do a full-on almost track sprint, seated, trying to get on top of the gear, very close to the finish, but Pello Bilbao looking to get it there. He thinks he got it anyway, but this is going to be thrilling with these riders. Rowan Dennis now coming across the line.
The Oka leader is going to change today. Such a brilliant ride by Rowan Dennis yesterday, and just not with enough in the legs, not enough form to hang on the corkscrew. He's going to lose that jersey. His Jumbo Visma team did try and control things well today, maybe try and keep things calm into that climb, but really that's why we love climbing in our great sport. It is the great sort out of watts per kilo, if you like. And one thing we know about Jay Vine, and he said it in the run-up to this race in one of his pre-race interviews, the watts are the watts. They're there. He knows what he's physiologically capable of. It's just about putting himself into the racing position to be able to use his significant and undoubted physiological talent. However, today he didn't win. Pello Bilbao did, and it was a great measured ride by him and a brilliant final sprint too. Don't know if his teammates know.
They know, definitely. But yeah, it was a brilliant ride there. I'd be interested to see if Jay Vine, there was a few seconds in between them maybe. Because it looked to be when Bilbao and Yates came past him, they went past him with some speed. It was a downhill sprint, so he won't have lost a lot, maybe a second or two. But yeah, fantastic. Jay Vine really opened it up early as well. With a K to go, he got on the gas, came out that corner. I think he was more focused on trying to get as much time as he can on his rivals rather than the stage win. But he is the new leader in that Orca jersey. And I think Bilbao will have come on to equal time with Simon Yates now.
So quite a sort out in the GC. That was the final sweeping right-hander. And you're right, Adam, I'd underestimated how fast that downhill was into the finish.
Rapid. Yeah, this is the finish now. Jay Vine, you can already see him head down, just going flat out. There are 200 metres and just from that's 300 metres. Bilbao taking a look over his shoulder, waiting patiently. And this is the moment he goes. 200 metres to go downhill. Watch Simon Yates, comes up alongside him, then has to sit down because he can't pedal quick enough. He's doing a full track spin all the way to the line, gets back out the saddle there, but almost late at the line. But Bilbao just holding on, and there's no gap to Jay Vine there, maybe a second, but at those speeds, probably not even that. Oh, Yates, he's just coming out the saddle, trying to get that last bit of acceleration, but just couldn't quite get alongside Bilbao.
It was close,
Fantastic.
though. Just a bigger chain ring there. And we actually see, if you look at that slow-mo there, you can see his chain flapping around all over the place, as well as he's desperately trying to get the leg speed in. Great sprint and a great ride by Pello Bilbao. And well done, Adam Blythe. You got it bang on.
It's all right, thanks for coming. I'll be here all week.
Let's hope you get it right all week then. You've got 2 stages to get it wrong. Let's see. Well, his team will be happy. They didn't do mountains of work for him today either. It was really just a brilliantly measured ride by him himself.
The debrief continues, not quite the race leader, but a stage victory, that was a beautiful win.
Yeah, that was the main goal for the team, no? Yesterday we were a bit disappointed because the race didn't went as we expected. We lost some good seconds there in the finish line. And today this was the best day for me, no? With the short and explosive kick, and also with a fast descent until the finish line. I had some difficulties to join Yates and the UAE guy, and yes, I have to go in my pace as usually do, and then join them in the last 300 meters that they knew that was going to be easier, and there maybe he was going to relax a bit, but they did such a fast ascent that for me it was difficult to arrive. And then I did just my sprint in the top, and I knew that I was going to have good possibilities. No, they were looking also for the overall, and I was more focused on making my best sprint and trying to win today.
Your sports director, Neil Stevens, told us that you've been preparing for this since October. Why has this race been so important?
Yeah, for him it's super important, and in the end he transmitted this to us. No? He's very enthusiastic, he's always looking into the small details, and I really enjoy working with Neil. No? I did really good races with him, and it's a pleasure to be in his home race. And to give also this victory to him. He's going to be for sure really proud, and also the guys deserve a victory like this because they just made a perfect job for me.
Phil, perfect performance by Bahrain Victorious, a stage win with their sprinter, now a stage win with their climber.
Pello Bilbao there referencing being away with Yatesy and that UAE guy.
He's new to the scene. He's new to the scene, but he is putting his stamp on it. Jay Vine, UAE, they did a fantastic bit of teamwork for Vine as well. George Bennett on the climb, Mark Hirschi as well, really lighting things up soon as they got on there and setting such a hard tempo that riders were losing time already before they got to the steep sections. From my calculations, Vine is obviously leading the race now in the Orca jersey. Yates and Bilbao both on equal time at around 18 seconds. Maybe Bilbao
Simon, so
18.
close in second position. What was your feelings immediately after you went across the line?
I mean, a bit disappointed really. I wanted to take home the stage. But that's how it goes. I knew Bilbao was fast there in the final, and I tried to line him up, but I just didn't have the gas to get around him.
Did the day go as you expected?
More or less, yeah. We knew UAE and Jay Vine would want to take it up, which they did. We were well positioned there into the bottom. I think I actually came into the bottom really well positioned with Durbo there, so no dramas there because that was quite dangerous. And then yeah, just kind of what the legs had really. And that's it.
Some more climbing to come on Sunday. How do you like your chances of getting the jersey off Jay Vine?
I mean, the way he was going today was he was obviously very strong. His team looked good as well, but you never know until we try. So we'll see what we can come up with. I still need to assess the situation with GC once we get back to the hotel. So we'll do that and then go from there.
Anna, as you know, it's never over till it's over.
Oh dear. Adams, Simon Yates is ice cold, isn't he? He is so measured. That interview he's just given, he didn't even look like he was sweating. He is just such a such a calm individual. He reminds me of the Oxford Dictionary definition of an Olympian, right? You know what it is? It says, a person of superhuman calm and detachment. That's actually the second level definition of an Olympian, an Olympic sports person. Person of superhuman calm and detachment. That is him, isn't it? He is ice cold. I think sometimes people read it maybe the wrong way, but he is utterly measured and cool, isn't he? We're watching the run-in again to that finish.
Yeah, Simon gutted, I think. He said openly then he wanted to win that stage and do it for his team, but as he said, just didn't have the gas, sadly, to get around Bilbao. So I think it's just that ultimate disappointment when you're that close to the front. And Simon, I think, as he mentioned, need to assess the GC. He might know that GC might be out of range a little bit with Jay Vine going so well, but it's not over till it's over. But Simon wanting to get that stage win for his team and for himself. So to come so close when you really wanted to win a stage, it's understandable, the disappointment.
Well, they've been so good, Jayco Al-Ula, this week so far, but not quite yet getting the win that they deserve. Michael Matthews, 4th today. Now, I wouldn't have seen that, particularly after the climb of Corkscrew. He must have gone up there really well, descended like a beast, and there he is in 4th place. Pelio Bilbao winner. Yates and Vine obviously on the same time. And then Michael Matthews thunders in, leading in that chasing group ahead of Sven-Erik Bistrom and Nathaniel Tesfacion, the Eritrean, who I saw moving up, the Trek Segafredo rider. He had a good climb as well, just ahead of his own teammate, Antonio Tiberi, Milan Veda. Ben O'Connor was there in 9th, so a lot of work done by his Agidazir Citroën team. And Ethan Hayter did move up in the end, Adam, I'm pleased to report.
He did. He got to the front and, was in the group with Michael Matthews. Solid ride from him.
And that completes the top 20. Mark Hershey in the end, still in that group where he was. He'd done so much work. He finished alongside Jai Hindley. Victor Lafayette was who we saw having a good go in the Cofidis jersey early on, along with Rudy Mollard. Those two rolled in together, the two Frenchmen. Max Schachmann was there too. Quite evident Max Schachmann for Boro Hansgrohe, the German, at the beginning of the climb anyway. Dropped back a little bit and then finished in that group. So this is the classification then for the general classification. The Oka leaders jersey, Jay Vine taking over, and he has a 15-second lead, mainly on account of the 10 seconds he's won on the line. Sorry, he hasn't won that on the line. Pello Bilbao has moved up with the 10 seconds he won on the line to be in 2nd place ahead of Simon Yates. Magnus Sheffield moving down from 3rd now to 4th, the 20-year-old. Mauro Schmid, I think, maintains his 5th place because he was 4th or 5th after yesterday anyway. Ethan Hayter in 6th, Sven-Erik Bistrom having moved up a fair bit there as well. Tiberi, O'Connor and Gorka Izagirre of Movistar in the top 10 now, but a minute back. So slightly bigger gaps than maybe we've seen at just over the halfway point in the Santos Tour Down Under of recent years. And we're waiting to bring you the podium presentation, of course. Looking back now at the whole of the stage, for those of you maybe who didn't join us from the very off, this was around about 11:30 in Norwood. Stuart O'Grady being given a little, what looked like a sort of tub of flowers. Then he waved the flag to start the riders off. And Mikel Honoré was the first to go. He was soon joined. In fact, he's looking back to see who's going to join him at this point as we look back at this time. It was once again an Astana Kazakhstan rider, as we've seen, the most active breakaway team in this race so far, and it was Fabio Fellini who joined him. Those two went through the first mountains point at Ashton, Honoré taking maximum points there. And then we came to Luke Plapp, hoovering up the remaining points ahead of Tim van Dijken in the Jumbo-Visma colours, of course. Those two then went to the sprint point in Lobethal, outside the bakery there in front of a big crowd in the sunshine in the Adelaide Hills, and it was Fabio Fellini and Mikel Honoré battling that one out. And following up behind them, we had Caden Groves, of course, the Aussie sprinter, and then those two went through Williamstown together, and it was Caden Groves again taking the 3rd place there. Groves having a good day out and then actually settling into some strong climbing. Then we saw this nasty crash between two of the Astana riders. We haven't actually heard any word on Gianni Moscon. I haven't seen anything yet. Astana have had a really active week so far, Adam. Really encouraging, not just in the news, but in the racing too. Honoré was the last to be caught, of course, and he was the honorary last attacker. Sorry. going over that climb. And then we started to see everyone, as we saw Jay Vine trying to just mix things up a little bit on the descent after the climb of Checker Hill, which proved to be a nasty, stout, straight uphill one. And then we had a nasty crash for the British rider Harrison Wood. Again, holding his head, so he had the concussion protocol straight after that, but he's landed on his shoulder too, as well, by the looks of it. We hope the British rider is up and okay. And then our camera started to focus on the Oka leaders jersey. Rowan Dennis looking like he was struggling a bit, and he was, because then the treacle really started to stick to the tyres as he made his way backwards through that group. This was the formation of our leading group as Pello Bilbao hooked up with Jay Vine, who once again, 2 days in a row, had kicked things off on the toughest climb of the day, being joined by Simon Yates, and the three of them hooking up over the top. And it would go that way to the finish until this very point. Bilbao opening up once they'd come off the wheel of Jay Vine. And Yates, as Adam said, having to sit down and desperately try and get on top of the pedals. He couldn't do it, though. Dipped, shook his head, and Bilbao had the hand in the air. Congratulations, Adam. Good pick. You got the right man. And it kind of played to all of his favour. The kind of climb that suits him. A very fast descent that suits him. And then he does have that turn of speed at the end as well.
Yeah, that's why I picked him.
Well, we will be bringing you the podium presentation in just a moment. They're just preparing fresh jerseys because we have a bit of a shuffling, I should say, of jerseys. Michael Matthews now is going to be taking over the Zip Track Sprint jersey from Caleb Ewan, who slips down to third. Jay Vine, on account of his consistency, is in second place. So Bling Matthews will be up on the podium. Things turning back in his favour today. Good day out today. And he should be a good pick tomorrow, I guess, alongside Caleb Ewan. Should we get that expected sprint into Wollonga Township? It is the Wollonga stage tomorrow, but not to the greater Wollonga Hill. We're using the lesser Wollonga Hill itself in the township. We're back alongside the beaches as well, winding our way slightly inland through the wineries to have an expected slightly uphill sprint finish tomorrow. King of the Mountains unchanged because Jay Vine led over the top of the biggest of the final ones, the Corkscrew Road. He leads from now Mikel Honoré, who's moved up, and Honoré's not far behind that, so I wonder whether on Sunday we might see Honoré thinking about trying to wrestle that jersey off Jay Vine, who is understandably focused now very much on the Oka leaders jersey. Luke Plapp having dropped down to fifth. Fabio Fellini picking up good points out there today. And Simon Yates really without trying to, moving his way up into third in the FX King of the Mountain competition. I can't help but think, Adam, while I'm trying to build the prominence of this jersey, the green dots need to be a little bit darker. I'm sure there'll be probably a geographical reason for why they're that colour. But they're very, very light green. It does, from a distance, just look like a white jersey, which is slightly confusing. That's just my
luckily,
thoughts.
The rider in the white jersey, Magnus Sheffield, we can tell them apart.
Yes. And you can see how hot it had got by the end of the day. It's hotting up nicely, ready for this weekend, isn't it? Both temperature-wise and racing-wise. Whoa, bumping around as well. Pello Bilbao, the back wheel there, just kicking up over the little ramp in the road. Yeah, so we will confirm for you, obviously, the jersey destinations when we do that podium presentation, which is just upcoming. And I think the general classification is just being checked because we're waiting to confirm everything for you.
Joe, you hatched a plan this morning.
Here's the interview.
How satisfying is that?
As a famous old TV show from the 70s, I love it when a plan comes together. I couldn't have done that without the team, though. That was like all I had to do was go on the last hill. They helped me all day, and full credit to them. They did an amazing job.
The last few kilometres, we saw you riding for time, making sure you got maximum gains. That was the strategy, I assume?
Yeah, I had no time gaps or anything. Our radios didn't quite reach over the top of the Corkscrew climb, so it was just full gas to the finish. And I'd seen quite a few times when the races finished downhill into Campbelltown that big groups can come back, and there was a massive group behind us. So yeah, it was just push all the way to the line to make sure we could get a lot of time buffer, because anything can happen in bike racing.
Before you got the chance to step up to one of the big pro teams, you would have loved an invite to ride here as part of the national team. You didn't get that, but now you're the race leader. What does that mean to you?
It's pretty special to be having the Oka jersey. You know, like some of the greatest Australian cyclists have worn the jersey. You know, and like one of my favourite riders, Richie Port. You know, he's won this race twice in a row. Or twice, and it's just it's pretty special to be able to put the jersey on and hopefully take it home on Sunday night.
The defence commences. Who's the biggest threat?
I don't know. Anything can come from anywhere in this race. You know, you can have bad luck in the last 5Ks and not get back in time. And yeah, so Lofty is also like a really, really hard stage where, you know, if they play it like a classic, it could be a really tough day. So I'm not counting any chickens before they've hatched, that's for sure.
Jay, how's your...
Very measured and sensible responses. Notably, Adam, there as well, referencing the racing kind of in the third person, talking about if they play it. So talking about it almost as an outsider watching in, and you can, you know, he knows the history of this race. He understands the prominence of it, particularly in the Australian sporting lexicon. It's obviously a really important thing for him, and well, all eyes will be on how well he can defend it on Sunday. It should be, I'd have thought, Adam, a slightly less stressful day tomorrow for those general classification contenders. Can we expect that, do you think?
Yeah, it's not going to be too stressful tomorrow. I think just looking at the general classification, the riders, you've got to look at who might go in a breakaway, try to get bonus seconds, really put the pressure on UAE. Because let's not forget that Jayco Iult will want to isolate them a little bit. They'll want to put UAE really under pressure, and there are two riders within that top 10 from Ineos Grenadiers, which is Ethan Hayter and Magnus Sheffield. So it'd be interesting to see how they play, if they try to send Hayter up the road, maybe if they really try to make it difficult and focus on the general like that. But yeah, it's a couple of days remaining, but it's going to be a tough couple of days for UAE, I'm sure.
And what a multinational top 10 that is now too as well, with Jay Vine leading. So two Australians in there, Jay Vine and Ben O'Connor, who's worked his way up into 9th today. Vine leading, of course, in that top 10 in the general classification, of course. Two Spaniards in Pello Bilbao, who sits 2nd, and Gorka Izagirre, who has moved up into 10th, the Movistar rider. One Italian in Antonio Tiberi, the Trek Segafredo rider, in 8th. And then a Swissman in Mauro Schmid of Soudal Quickstep. He actually moved down one place today, as did Magnus Sheffield, the American for Ineos Grenadiers, who now sits in 4th. He's been replaced on the virtual podium by Simon Yates, who was unmistakably dischuffed after the finish at missing out on the stage win there. So fully focused on trying to win that stage, let the general classification look after itself by the look of things, because he's moved up 9 places today, Simon Yates. Bilbao has moved up 14 places to get right up into the top 10 and into 2nd place. Those three, of course, took the bonuses on the line. Pello Bilbao getting a 10-second bonus. And that brings us to our podium presentation.
2023 Santos Tour Down Under. Helping us today on stage with the presentations will be Austin, Liam and Ewan, who are young up-and-coming stars. Great to have the kids all leading because they know the events and the winners of events. Now please welcome on the stage Tim Moffat, the South Australian Sponsorship and Events.
Well, folks who are watching this on our digital platforms, we will stay with the podium presentation for you to see at home, as we have done on every stage so far. And I'll do my best to try and relay anything to you that you might not be hearing or picking up on. Popular rider all round the sport, Pello Bilbao. Multi-talented, multifaceted. And he's been with Bahrain and the Bahrain McLaren, then Bahrain Victorious team since 2020. Of course, prior to that, he was an Astana rider. Been a pro since 2011 when he turned pro with Euskaltel Euskadi. Of course, a Basque rider coming through that Basque team. Adam Blythe getting his pick absolutely spot on today. I'm yet to get my pick right. How did you lot do at home? Thank you for your correspondence during the day. Keep it coming and do stay with us this weekend, won't you? Because we have the predicted sprinty stage tomorrow with some very big fast men in here, the likes of Caden Groves and others who will be trying to take on, I'm sure, Caleb Ewan, Michael Matthews, Corbin Strong. These are the names we expect to see battling things out when they fly around the multiple laps of the Willunga Township tomorrow. So another Australian leader taking over from yesterday's Aussie winner. And so much expected of this man this year. That's why UAE Team Emirates came looking for him before he'd even won the second of his Vuelta stages last year. And you still sense he's still got so much more to come too, Jay Vine. It's not a bad start to the year. Well, this will be interesting to see where this one goes today. My suspicion is the most combative, most aggressive rider is going to go to Mikel Honoré, but let's see. So there we go, it is Mikel Honoré in the pink of EF Education. Easy Post freed up a little bit now. They haven't got a team leader leading the general classification overall in the shape of Alberto Bettiol, of course, who lost that jersey yesterday. Well, folks, that is it from me today. I'll leave you who are still watching to enjoy the rest of the podium presentation. But do join us this weekend for the concluding 2 stages of the Santos Tour Down Under. In the meantime, though, from me, Jez Cox, and also from Adam Blythe, thank you for your company. Join us this weekend for the conclusion of the Santos Tour Down Under. Bye-bye.
Well, he's held firm. He's got a bit of a grip on this jersey. He's at his battles, but he still holds on for Ineos Grenadiers, Magnus Sheffield. Congratulations once again to Magnus. Well, in before they are the flower experts and the people behind the beautiful bouquets of flowers being presented today, so we thank them also. Now to continue today's presentations, I'd like to welcome onto stage Tony Gamaya, the Managing Director for Zip Track, to present the Zip Track Sprint jersey. Great to see you, Tony. Thank you once again for the great support from Zip Track. Well, we saw at the start of the day, it was Caleb Ewan. He actually had a pretty good day yesterday, just missed catching those leaders into Victor Harbour. But we've got another change in this classification, And he's picked himself up off the canvas for Jake Alula, Michael Matthews. Breathe in, Michael. Breathe in. There we go. Michael Matthews, ladies and gentlemen, your zip track new leader. Congratulations, Michael, and thank you, Tony. Thank you, Zip Track. The blue colours go well with the Jake Alula strip. Now to present the FX King of the Mountains jersey. Please welcome David Rose, head of sales at FX. Thanks, David, and once again, a big thank you to FX. Well, he was the one who turned the screws. He put his teammates on the front at the base of the corkscrew. He went across the top. He led in that last kilometre. Really did push it up the corkscrew. For UAE Team Emirates, it's Jay Vine. Jay Ryan, ladies and gentlemen, the new FX King of the Mountains leader. After 2 great stages in a prologue. Well done, Jay. Thank you, David. And thank you, FX. Well, what a stage we've had, hey. What a few days of racing. Of course, it all started with Alberto Ventiol's victory in the prologue. Then it was the Bahrain victorious rider, Phil Bauhaus, into Tanunda. And then, of course, yesterday, Rowan Dennis. And then today, with the stage win, the teammate of Bauhaus. So Bahrain victorious, 2 stage wins. But how about we welcome back right now, and I want you to give a big round of applause and a big cheer, because let's have a chat to him, our new race leader, Jay Vine. Jay, what a key couple of days you've had. I must say, I wasn't sure where your form was at in January, because we all know you've got some big fish to fry as the season progresses, but you've got to be pretty happy with it now.
Yeah, happy is sort of an understatement. You told me 3 years ago that I'd be leading Tour Down Under. I probably would have laughed at you, but no, it's pretty special to be in this jersey.